Pamela Marr, is suing her ex-husband's girlfriend, Mary Palmucci, for the return of money paid for a '97 Chevy Cavalier. Pamela claims Mary illegally titled the vehicle in her name.
Order. All rise. Now, this is case number 290 on the calendar in the matter of Marr versus Palmucci.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Miss Marr, Miss Palmucci is the girlfriend of your ex-husband.
Yes.
Ex-husband?
Yep. Yes.
Better. According to your complaint, you and your ex-husband got together and decided to purchase a used car for your daughter.
Yes, Ashley.
And each of you was going to contribute $400 to the car.
Yes.
According to you, you gave your husband $400 to buy this car. The car somehow was registered in the name of Miss Palmucci.
Yes.
Your daughter drove the car for a period of time, and then, for whatever reason, Miss Palmucci took the car back.
Yes.
You want your $400 back.
Correct.
Miss Palmucci said it was always her car. Step up, sir. What's your last name?
Marr?
How long have you and your former wife been divorced?
About 4 or 5 years now.
And how long have you and Miss Palmucci been together?
About 7 years.
So I assume you and your wife were separated for a long time before you divorced.
Yes.
How old was your daughter when you left the house?
Like 13, 12, 13, like that.
How old?
10.
10?
They're not always good with dates. Whose idea was it to get this used car for your daughter?
It was my idea.
Where did you find the car?
My niece had it. She was selling the car.
Did your wife, former wife, give you $400 towards the car? Look at me.
It was my understanding that check that she gave me was for the work I did for her at her house a week prior to that. And I gave $200.
How much was the car?
The car altogether was $700.
Did you have a conversation with your former wife with regard to her contributing to the car?
The only conversation that we had was with my daughter and myself and Mary about the car. There was no verbal conversation about the car between me and my ex-wife.
Did you have a conversation with your father about the car?
Yes.
Step up. Tell me your first name.
Ashley.
Ashley, tell me about when you had this conversation with your father about the car.
Well, I was at work and he called and asked me if I wanted to discuss with my mother about getting the car from my cousin.
Well, what specifically did he say?
He said, "Do you think your mother would go half in buying a car for you?" I said, "Yeah, she would." So I went home and talked to my mother about it, and she said, "Yeah, that's a good idea."
Did your father tell you how much the car was?
Yes.
How much did he say it was?
$700.
And did you tell your mother how much it was?
Yes.
Who did you give the money to?
My ex-husband.
When?
I gave it to him on July 28th.
Did you give it to him in check or cash?
Check.
How much did you give him?
$400.
Why did you give him $400?
Because I was told that the car was $800, and later on, after I had paid it, my daughter had said it was only $700.
Did you originally tell your mother it was $800?
I think I might have.
What date did you get the car?
July 31st.
July 30th.
And when was the car taken back from you?
It's August 21st.
Mr. Marr, you did have a discussion with your daughter about her mother going half for the car, unless you're calling your daughter a liar. Are you calling your daughter a liar?
Me and Ashley discussed it. We didn't discuss anything with my ex-wife.
Are you telling me that you didn't say to your daughter you think your mom would go half with me on a used car for you?
No, it didn't take place, that conversation.
Really?
Yep.
Tell me the work that you did for your ex-wife that you thought she was paying you for.
I put a liner in the pool and a skimmer also.
Did you arrive at a price with her?
No, it wasn't. We didn't compromise the price.
Well, how much did you spend for the liner?
I didn't spend for anything. She bought the liner and I put it in. I installed it and the skimmer.
How long did it take you?
Half a day, about 4 or 5 hours.
So what you're telling me, Mr. Marr, is you want me to believe, sir, that you thought that this $400 was your labor in putting in the half a day?
Yeah, that I paid my brother-in-law with the other $200. Exactly.
Really?
Yeah.
Even though you had not come up with an amount with your wife for what the job was going to be?
No, since she doesn't make that much money, I was just happy with whatever she gave me, that's all.
Mr. Marr, you're full of baloney, sir. Absolutely, positively, 100% full of baloney. If something doesn't make sense in this world, Mr. Marr, it's not true. If something makes sense, it's usually true. What makes sense is you having a discussion with your daughter and saying you think your mom would go half with me on a car for you, and giving her an inflated amount of $800 because that would have covered the tags and the registration, whatever it was to get it on the road. And she going to her mother and saying, would you do that? And her mother said, sure. And her mother hands you a check for $400. You don't even ask what it's for. You ask, don't know. It's for the swimming pool. It's for the liner. It's for the work. It's for the... I don't know what this is for. Thank you very much for the check. Then you register the car in your girlfriend's name. What happens to her $400 when you take back the car?
I didn't register the car.
She registered the car.
Right, because I wrote out the check for the $700, which I have, and I paid for everything else, including the insurance. He can't register.
Then you got it, Miss Palmucci. He scammed you out of $400.
Who scammed me out of $400?
He did.
Really?
Yeah, he did.
Okay.
Because he got paid $400. So if you wrote out the entire check of $700 plus putting tags and registration on the car, then your boyfriend scammed you out of $400 because he got half of it from his ex-wife, which was supposed to pay
either
for
way,
the car.
the money comes out of a joint checking account, which him and I have, so he didn't scam me out of anything, so that's also where the check is deposited.
Yeah.
Into the account that we both have.
Let me see everything, please. I want to see all the paperwork, please. Going to resolve this right away.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
These two people decided to buy her a car. He's afraid to tell you that.
The conversation between him...
Try not to speak over me. You will not be successful.
And later today...
Things need to be paid. She offers to pay for those things. I wasn't going to say no.
Why not?
Somebody offers me money. Who am I to say no?
A creep.
Pamela Marr claims her ex-husband's girlfriend, Mary Palmucci, illegally titled a Chevy Cavalier in her name. Pamela says the car was supposed to be a gift to her daughter, Ashley.
Why is the certificate of title all mangled?
Because she attempted to take it from my house and tore it in doing that.
Where's the car now?
In my driveway.
Who drives it?
Nobody right now.
Why not?
It's not registered and insured.
Does it still drive?
Yeah,
Yeah,
still
there's
drives.
nothing wrong with it.
Oh, good. You want to give him $350 for this car?
Sure. Yes.
Good, because that's all they paid for. They said they paid
In addition to the
$700.
insurance, the registration, the title, the amount that I had to have it towed in order to get the vehicle back.
Shouldn't have done that because
Well,
you didn't get the
only
whole
other
story.
choice that I was given by the police department
Listen
was
to
that I
me.
should file
You
a
didn't
complaint
get the
of
whole
theft.
story, madam. The whole story was these two people have a child together. They decided to buy her a car. He's afraid to tell you that.
The conversation between him...
Try not to speak over me. You will not be successful. You got yourself in the middle of it, and you shouldn't have. But she's going to give you $350. You get the other $400 from him, because that's what she paid him for the car, and you're going to sign over the title to her right now.
I can't sign the title until after the other case goes to court.
What other case?
There's another case that's going to court on the 14th of November.
For what?
Her claim against him for assault.
Her claim against him for
Yes,
assault.
here's the paperwork. You want to see that
Can I
too?
see it, please? This has nothing to do with the title to the car.
It does. It's in there. It says that she went there and that she attempted to get the title to the car.
That's,
It's in
I
one of
got
the
you.
papers there.
I got you. We'll give you a copy of this tape. You take it, you show it, and you indicate to the judge who hears that case, if a judge is going to hear that case, that you were directed to, and you have agreed and acknowledged to follow my direction. You're going to sign this over to her, and she's going to give you $350. Bird, have her sign it right now. You created a whole lot of trouble, Mr. Marr, by not being honest with the women in your life. Sign it.
Tell her sign here.
You have now purchased the car yourself. Do you understand?
Yes.
She gets $350. Now she's whole because she's going to take his $400 because they have a joint bank account. You got it?
Yes.
Very good. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He's ruined a good relationship he had with his 3 daughters. He has no relationship with them now. It's just really, really sad that he would do this to his own daughters.
She'd rather go the avenue of making up lies and causing a problem between people. That's the results that she gets.
It's his fault. He ruined everything with me and my sisters, and there's going to be nothing more.
They want to continue to cause friction. That's their loss.
There's going to be no friction.
He's been causing friction for years.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Price versus Emerson. Step forward.
Peggy Price is suing her ex-boyfriend, Corey Emerson, for loans to pay rent, fix his bike, and travel to his brother's wedding. Corey says the money she gave him was never a loan.
Miss Price, Mr. Emerson was your boyfriend for a brief period of time, and according to your complaint, you made a series of loans to him. You want your money back because he broke off the relationship. He says that he did break off the relationship. Any money that you gave him during the relationship were gifts because you cared for him, He needed the money. That's what people do who care for each other. They help each other out. And the only time it became a loan was when he broke up with you. Is that your defense, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
How old are you, Mr. Emerson?
30 years old.
Ever been married?
Yes, ma'am.
How many times?
Just once.
When and for how long?
I was married when I was 20 for 9 years.
You have children?
2.
How old are your children?
9 and 10.
Do you see them?
Almost every day.
So you're a good father.
I try to be, ma'am.
What kind of work do you do, Mr. Emerson?
I work for the railroad.
And how long have you worked for the railroad?
6.5 years.
Pay child support?
Yes, ma'am.
What about you, Miss Price? How old are you?
32.
Ever been married?
Yes.
When and for how long?
2000 until 2005.
Have any children?
2.
How old are they?
5 and 13.
Do you work?
I do.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm self-employed hairstylist.
Children see their father?
Yes.
Do you pay child support?
He's disabled, so they get Social Security.
And your former wife, sir, what does she do?
She has an in-home daycare.
So it would be a fair statement, Mr. Emerson, to say that both of these families are sort of struggling to make ends meet financially. That be a fair statement?
I wouldn't say that I'm struggling, nor would I say she's struggling at all.
Really?
That's correct.
You think there's plenty of money to go around?
I do.
Then why would you take money from her, Mr. Emerson?
I didn't take any money.
No, listen to me, sir.
Oh.
You did take money from her. Whether it's a gift or a loan, you did take money from her, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So, if these two families are in pretty much similar circumstance, why would you take money from her?
Things come up, you know, things need to be paid. She offers to pay for those things. I wasn't going to say no.
Why not? Is my question. Why not? Would not a person with a certain moral compass say, listen, you're a working gal, you got 2 little children, I'm a working guy, I got 2 little children.
Somebody offers me money, who am I to say no?
A creep. That's who you are. Because whether I determine this was a gift or a loan, you're a creep. You're not talking about somebody who's got plenty of extra cash and says to somebody that she cares about, listen, I got a lot of extra cash. You need something, I'll help you with it. You were pretty well aware of the fact, if you were dating for a while, that she's a hard-working gal who comes home from work, takes care of her kids, does the cooking, whatever, does everything that has to be done. And you, on the other hand, who see your children every day, which is really very nice, probably have much less responsibility with regard to doing their laundry, with regard to taking them to their appointments, with regard to doing the general stuff, what I call the grunt work, because your children do live with their mother, don't they?
Yes, ma'am.
So now we're going to decide whether you are a creep that took the money because it was a loan or a creep that took the money because it was a gift. Either way, I don't approve of your behavior. Now, when did you start dating Mr. Emerson?
The second week of May 2006.
Tell me when and under what circumstances he asked you for the first amount of money.
He wrecked his bike, the fork broke. He said that he didn't have the money to pay for it. Sent me a text message, can you do me a huge favor? That's how all of them start.
Could you do me a huge favor?
Yeah.
Go ahead. What did it say?
I need money to pay for the fork for my bike.
Okay.
So I said under the condition that he make payments, whatever, eventually it's got to be paid back.
When did you tell him eventually he has to be paid back?
I didn't set a date. I just said, you know, whenever you can pay me back.
Okay, so and how much was that for?
This check was for $409.81.
Okay, next.
Then he was having problems. He didn't have enough money to pay his rent. So
how did you find out about that?
He sent me a text message again asking him to help him pay his rent. And I said, how much is it? And he said it was $640 with late fees. I said, how much do you have? He said he had like $400 in the bank. And I said, I can help you out, but once again, it's, you know, we're adding this on. So I wrote a check for $640, but he gave me $403 of it.
Go ahead.
Then he had to get home. His brother's wedding was like a month before.
He had to go to a wedding?
To Montana. And, you know, we talked about it, and I'm like, I can help you out. If you want me to, whatever, I can help you out.
I don't want whatever. You're in court now, Miss Price. You have to be specific about what you said to him and what he said to you, and I want you to trust me on this. I know what you're making up, and I know what you're not making up.
Right.
Do you understand?
Right.
So a month later, he had a wedding?
Yes.
Where were you when he asked you for the money for the trip?
We were at a bar.
And what did he say to you?
He just said that he didn't have the money to get there. Could I help him out?
And what did you say?
I said, I can do what I can, you know, but...
And how much was that?
The plane ticket was $346.60, and the Greyhound bus that I put him on because I waited till the last minute to get the plane ticket, and it was going to be $900. So I wasn't going to do that. I didn't have the money to do that, and he knew that. So I sent him on a Greyhound, and that was $159.
Okay, and that's it?
Yes.
And what date was that?
He left on the 1st of August and returned on the 8th.
And when did you and Mr. Emerson stop seeing each other?
He came in on the 11th, which was a Friday, at about noon.
To your salon?
My work, yes. I proceeded to give him and his son a haircut at no charge, thinking everything was okay, because we'd had no problems up till then. And I got a text message 6 hours later from him saying that we needed a break, and, you know, this wasn't working, it was moving too fast. And so we went back and forth through text messages, and I said, you know, I have the right to know why you're feeling this way. I've done everything in the relationship I've given.
And he said? He
said, since you're giving me an ultimatum, it's over.
Okay, now, Mr. Emerson, it's your turn. June. June!
June, the mountain bike. I wrecked my mountain bike. It was going to cost about $400 to fix it. I had talked with Peggy about the price, and she offered to pay for it.
What would you talk to her about the price for?
Well, we're in a relationship. We talked about, you know, I talked about wrecking my mountain bike and, you know, what it was going to be to fix it. And
why would you tell her that? Why don't you tell your ex-wife that?
Actually, I did tell my ex-wife that.
Did she give you any money?
No.
You have living parents?
Yes.
Well, your mother loves you for a longer time than the plaintiff did. Why don't you call your mother and say, I broke my spoke?
I didn't need to. The plaintiff had already offered to pay for it.
She wouldn't need to have offered to have paid for it, Mr. Emerson, if you didn't have a problem. And you wouldn't have had a problem if you called your mother or your father or your brother or your sister and said, could you loan me some money? Then you wouldn't have even had to mention it to her.
It wasn't a loan. She just offered to pay for it, ma'am.
Well, what about Mr. Emerson? You need not do that. I only know you 8 weeks. And I wouldn't think of taking any money from you because I have a mother who gave birth to me. I have an ex-wife who I support along with my 2 children. I have a brother, sister, father, you know, who I've known a long time. I wouldn't think of taking money from you. How about that?
Didn't even cross my mind.
Nah, that's because you're a creep. Mr. Emerson, you want to tell me what cathartic event happened between the 1st of August when you went home to your brother's wedding and the 11th of August when you had your haircut and your son's haircut for free at Miss Price's salon that caused you to send her a text message that said, we need a break?
It had been leading up to that.
I want you to tell me the cathartic event between August 1st, when you left on a plane ticket that she purchased for you, and when you came back on a Greyhound bus ticket that she had purchased for you that caused you to say, we need a break.
Okay, it was
Follow my train of thought, sir.
It was big deal was the plane ticket. She tells you she's going to do something, and she'll play along with the story. I'm going to do this. I've got it taken care of. Don't worry. I'll do it.
Just a second. Just a second. Let's get rid of the gobbledygook, sir. What you're complaining about is
the fact
what
that she does not follow through.
Listen, what you're saying is she sent you home by bus instead of plane. Is that what you're telling me?
That was one of the problems, yes.
Oh, very good. Major creep. Major creep. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,154. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
24-year-old Terrell Taggart is suing her ex-fiancé, 25-year-old Travis Miller, for false allegations of assault, money stolen from their joint bank account, and the cost of a wedding that never happened.
Yeah, this is case number 277 on the calendar in the matter of Taggart versus Miller.
Thank you, Bert.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor, and may be seated. Folks, have a seat.
Ms. Taggart, you and Mr. Miller were engaged to be
Yes, ma'am.
married. You have a child from a previous relationship.
Yes, I do.
And the 3 of you live together.
Yes.
There came a time when that engagement and that relationship terminated. You were in the process of planning a wedding, and it is your claim that Mr. Miller owes you for a whole host of things. First, false allegations that he made with regard to an incident where he claimed that you bit him and assaulted him, emptying out a bank account that was yours, not giving you property back that belonged to you, and wedding expenses that you paid for. Mr. Miller says he doesn't owe you a dime. He also paid for wedding expenses. He says the allegations of assault were absolutely true. He doesn't have any property that belongs to you anymore, and he really wants you to move on with your life because he says that his life has been made unbearable by you and your family, who have embarked on a constant course of harassment, including filing of multiple lawsuits.
Yes,
so
Your Honor.
far, is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, when did this blissful relationship commence?
We got engaged on September 16th of 2005.
Were you living together at the time?
We didn't move in together until the next month.
You moved in together in whose home?
We rented an apartment together, and we both signed the lease.
And when was this argument that terminated the relationship?
The argument happened on May 10th, which was 10 days before the wedding was supposed to happen.
Is that when the assault allegedly took place, sir?
Approximately, Your Honor.
Not approximately.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. You want to tell me what happened, Miss Taggart?
Yes, ma'am. I had gone to Morgan, where all of the wedding arrangements were to take place, to finalize the cake and the
flowers.
And the flowers. I called him at work and told him I was going to be going, and he didn't want me to go.
Why didn't you want her to go?
Well, because, Your Honor, I wanted to participate in the, the formalizing of this wedding.
Then he told you that?
No, he did not tell me that.
What did he tell you?
He just told me that he didn't want me to go, and previously he'd told me that he didn't want anything to do with planning it, that it was my wedding and I was in charge of planning it.
Okay, go ahead.
So I went to Morgan anyway. He'd called me several times and was very upset. And,
well, what did he say to you when he called?
He would just yell at me. He was mad at me because I talked to my mother about how he was upset with me. He didn't want me to even talk to my mother about it.
Miss Taggart, I'm not getting a full picture. After you spoke to him on the phone and he was upset with you, did you call your mother?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Why did you call your mother?
I called my mother because when I talked to him on the phone, I was very upset, and I just wanted to call and mostly have somebody just help me calm down so that I wasn't so upset. I was going to finalize wedding plans, and I didn't want to have tears running down my face when I was doing it.
Go ahead.
I finalized the wedding plans, and I called him when I was on my way home, as he'd asked, and he said, well, we'll just talk when you get home. And so I got home, and my son was asleep, and so I took him to bed in our bedroom.
How old is your son?
He's 7 now. He was 6 at the time.
If he was sleeping, where was he sleeping?
He was asleep in the car on the way home.
So you went to finalize the wedding plans with your son?
Yes.
And when you got home, you put your son to bed in your bedroom?
Yes.
Is that where he usually sleeps?
Yes. He had a bed in the front room, but he'd often come and slept in our bed.
That's not an answer, Miss Tackett. 7 years old, they're supposed to sleep in their own room if they have a room. When he slept in your room, where did he sleep?
He would just sleep in the bed. I laid him in there because I knew that Travis and I were going to be having a conversation, and I didn't want it to wake him. So I put him to sleep in our bed. And Travis was standing by the bathroom door when I got home. He gave me a hug, and I went and I sat on the couch in our front room. And a few minutes later, he came and he sat down in the chair across from me. And he started asking me questions and something about like $1,600 missing from the bank account. And I told him it was just all finalizing wedding plans.
Did you have a joint checking account?
We did. He was put on the checking account 2 months prior to this.
And you were working at the time?
Yes.
Who were you working for?
I was working for the Huntsman Cancer Hospital.
And you?
Yes, I'm employed for the state of Utah for JJS Juvenile Justice Services.
Okay. So you were each depositing your checks in the bank?
Yes,
in this joint bank account? Okay, go ahead.
And so it started to get heated. He started yelling at me about all sorts of things. I remember I was holding a pillow sitting on the couch, and he stood over me, shaking his finger at me, telling me that I was weak and I was worthless, and he couldn't even believe he was attracted to me. And then he asked me to leave, and I was okay with that. At the time, I was fed up with the fight. I was ready to be done with the fight. And so I said, okay, I'll leave. And I went to go back to the bedroom to get my son. And Travis had been drinking prior in the evening. And Travis said, you're not taking him with you. And I said, he's my son, and he's going with me. And I tried to get past Travis to go get my son, and he pushed me. And he did this repetitively. He pushed me into the wall, into the kitchen table, into the couch, down on the bed, down on the floor. And I did the pushing and shoving match for a minute, and then I said, you know what, I'm just going to call the cops. I grabbed my cell phone, and I started to dial 911, and he grabbed my phone, and he threw it across the house. After that, I went out, and I was kind of freaked out. I stood there for a second, and I decided that I had to get my son. And so I started to get violent with him. I did bite him on the upper left chest. I believe I bit him on the right forearm. I punched him, I kicked him. I was doing everything I could to get my son out of that house.
Why didn't you just go outside and call the police?
A moment of confusion.
Okay.
And so I started to get violent with him. And he said, you're not taking him, he's my son. And I said, you're not to him. And Travis then began to cry. He sat on the floor, and I tried to get past him again to get my son. He then grabbed my legs and threw me to the ground. When I got up again, I started punching him in the top of the head, and I finally got past him. Well, he ran into the bedroom following me, and then when I realized the fight had escalated and, you know, we were now in the bedroom, I didn't want my son to wake up, and so I laid on top of his ears. I covered his ears so that he wouldn't wake up.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You don't bite him and kick him and scratch him and punch him and then go inside and put your hands over your son's sleeping ears so that he won't be awakened. That's stupid. You agree with that, don't you?
No, ma'am, I don't.
Well, then that's your problem.
And later today,
You have to go, find your center.
I've been trying to find a lot
Find
of
your
my
center and say, it's over.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Terrell Taggart claims ex-fiancé Travis Miller owes for false allegations of assault, money taken from a joint bank account, and his share of wedding expenses.
All right, Mr. Miller, you want to tell me, please, your version of what happened on the night of May 10th?
Yes, Your Honor. While Ms. Taggart is emotional, the events that transpired. Yes, I'll tell you. I'd gotten off work around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I wasn't drunk. I called to pay my cell phone bill, our cell phone bill, over the phone. And I knew from the day before, because she told me she would like to go do some wedding things, and I asked her, you know, can I go with you? I don't go alone. I said, I got off at 4. Prior to this, I called the cell phone company, and they said, no money in your account. So I got home, and I was a little upset, sober, not drunk. And we did have an argument. Her son was sleeping in our room, and if we did have such a horrendous fight, you know, he would have woken up in the first place. She did assault me. I didn't touch her. She could have called the police at any time. I did ask her to leave at that time because she was emotional, and that's about how it transpired, Your Honor.
Okay, Ms. Taggart, so let me explain something to you. Let's deal with the false allegations of abuse. There were no false allegations of abuse. You lost your cool, and you assaulted him. That's it. You bit him. You bit him here, you bit him here, you bit him here. I'm not sure whether I believe that he struck you and abused you, because if he did, the police would have arrested him. Did they respond to your home?
They did not. I actually tried to file a police report several times within the following weeks. I went to the desk, and the officer at the desk didn't care. They just shrugged me off.
Okay. There were many ways you could have handled the incident that occurred in your house on the 10th of May. You chose the most inappropriate one. Most appropriate one is if you're having a fight with him, and if you were emotional, which clearly you were, it's not the right time to take your son out of a sleeping bed. There's no question in my mind that Mr. Miller was not going to hurt your son. So you go outside, you cool off, you call your mother, you call the police if you have to, you say, I want to go get my son. But what you don't do is you don't bite him and kick him and scratch him and punch him, and then go inside and put your hands over your son's sleeping ears so that he won't be awakened and frightened by the fight. That's stupid. You agree with that, don't you?
No, ma'am, I don't.
Well, then that's your problem. Because that's the right thing to do if you're a reasonable mother. Your daughter is emotional. It's your daughter, isn't it?
Yes.
Your daughter is emotional, and the truth of the matter is, on that day, May 10th, based upon what she told me, she did the wrong thing. She went to finalize wedding plans. He asked her not to go, to wait for him until he got out of work. She went anyway. There's no question he got upset with her. Instead of resolving the issue, she calls her mommy. Certainly, that's not the way two grown-ups are supposed to deal with their wedding plans. Your daughter got emotional. I don't believe Mr. Miller was drunk. I don't believe that for a minute. So, let's deal with the bank account. You say, Ms. Taggart, that Mr. Miller emptied the bank account.
Yes, ma'am, he did.
On what date did he empty the bank account?
It was the day immediately following the fight. It would have been May 11th.
How much money was in the bank account?
There was probably about 350-ish.
What do you mean 350-ish? Show me the account.
I don't know if I have the exact statement for that month.
Well, then I'm not interested in that part of the lawsuit, madam. That's what you're supposed to have here. Miss Taggart, if you come to court and you're suing because you say that he emptied out a joint bank account, what you have to bring is you have to bring proof of that. And that would be the bank statement for when he closed that bank account, how much money was in it, and it would also show me how much money was in it the day before the fight.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have that?
I only have the bank statements up until April, so I do not have that one.
Not interested. Okay, so empty out the bank account you don't have any proof of. Wedding expenses. Who was planning the wedding?
I was, as he had told me to.
Who was paying for the wedding?
I was, out of my income tax return.
So?
So that is where I come with the opinion that he owes me at least half of that.
He doesn't. There has to be an agreement. In the event that Mr. Miller said to you, which of course he didn't, I am going to pay for half of the wedding, then that's a contract. But Mr. Miller didn't say that to you. What you want is you want half the wedding expenses because there was no wedding, right?
This is right.
But that's not the way the law works. There's nothing in the law that gives you the right and gives me the right to say to Mr. Miller, well, it didn't work out, and you should pay for half the expenses. That's a different kind of court. It's a court that doesn't exist in this country. Now, what property do you allege that you left at his house?
There is a mirror that was given to me as a Christmas gift from him. He would not allow me to take it because he said it matched the bed that his father had given us as an early wedding present. There's an anatomy book that I like to refer to for work. It's a very expensive Gray's Anatomy book. Just a few little things. I had gone to his house.
Not interested in a few little things, madam. I'm waiting. So far, I have a mirror and a book.
Also, since the bed was given to us as a mutual gift from his father, I believe that I deserve half of the cost of the bed.
Got to get over it, Miss Taggart. Got to move on, Miss Taggart. Didn't work out. Didn't work out. Okay. Did you buy her an anatomy book?
I did, Your Honor.
Do you have it?
No, Your Honor.
Where is it?
About 3 days after she had left, my house was burglarized, broken into, coincidentally enough.
When you say the house was burglarized, what was taken?
Everything, from couch, TV stand, television, all appliances, the mirror, blankets, you name it, it was burglarized.
Got it.
Okay.
Miss Taggart, you have to get over it. Move on. Put your hand down. Don't encourage her. Encourage her to move on.
I have encouraged her to
Good.
move on.
Good. Move on. It's over. It's finished. Go find somebody else. Devote all of your energies to something else. It's finished. Case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
1 minute he would say he loved me. The next we were fighting, I was constantly in tears.
Her mother was controlling, and it just didn't work out.
He just always broke me down.
I'm glad to see it over, and I'm glad to be moving on with my life.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Martino Napolitano versus DeSimone. Step forward, please.
Sharon Martino Napolitano is suing the mother of her daughter's boyfriend, Deborah DeSimone, for damage caused to her Toyota Camry while the car was in her possession.
You two lovely ladies are neighbors, and you each have a child. You have a girl. You have a boy. They're dating each other.
Yes.
This is your complaint. You allowed your daughter, this young lady right here, to use your car. She was using your car one day to take Miss DeSimone around to do some chores.
Correct.
And that wouldn't have bothered you necessarily because she's the mother of the boyfriend, right? But then Miss DeSimone asked if she could borrow the car herself because she wanted to go food shopping, right?
Yes,
Food
to
town.
pick up a couple items.
And your daughter allowed her to drive the car. The car was damaged. You want Miss DeSimone to pay for the damage to the car.
Absolutely.
Miss DeSimone says she took the car, went into Food Town. While she was in Food Town, somebody must have hit your car.
Correct.
Right?
That is correct.
So it's not her fault. That's what you're saying.
That's correct.
We'll see. What year is your car?
It's a 1995 Camry.
How long have you had it?
Approximately a year.
So you bought it secondhand?
Yes, ma'am.
How many accidents have you had?
I've had one other one where I was hit from behind at a red light.
So you had a rear end damage to the car? Bumper or?
Bumper.
Bumper. Only the bumper?
Only the bumper.
Was the car fixed?
No.
On September 6th, what kind of damage was done to your car?
It would be the right quarter panel.
You have a photograph?
Absolutely.
I'd like to see it, please.
Here's before and after.
Ooh. That's a bad one. Okay. So, you still dating each other?
Yeah.
Okay, this is not going to be painful. Believe me. We're going to use the but-for rule, Miss DeSimone.
Okay.
But for the fact that you borrowed the car and took it to Food Town to go shopping, this wouldn't have happened. Unfortunately, you took the car. You didn't have her permission to drive the car. You had her daughter's permission to drive the car.
Actually, there was a couple of things that happened prior to that. While I was in the car with her daughter, it was a very rainy day. Her daughter was driving the car. The car was hydroplaning a lot, and she became very nervous and asked if she pulled over if I would drive. I said, no problem, if it's safer. We completed our mission. We did proceed home, asked if she didn't mind if I ran back out to just pick up a couple items at the Food Town. That's when all that began, and the police report states differently, if you'd like to see it, that he even stated, the police officer, that he saw prior damage on the car.
You mean this prior damage?
No, other damage.
We're not talking about other damage. We're talking about this damage.
But she's saying that there was only damage to the bumper, and according to this, it states that there was...
What difference does it make? This damage was not on the car, madam, when you borrowed it.
No.
That's all I'm talking about.
I don't believe so.
I am only talking about, well, you don't miss this damage.
No.
Ma'am,
No, you don't have to speak. It was going to be easy. Now it's not so easy. For the fact that you borrowed the car, took it to Food Town, the car would have been parked in her driveway. If the car was parked in her driveway, the same driver that hit her car from Food Town would have had to look for it.
Can I please say
Stop.
something?
Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
And she's taking your word for the fact that you don't know how this accident happened. But it looks as if somebody hit your car. If she had hit somebody else's car, unless she, I don't know how you can contort yourself to do this kind of a damage to somebody else's car, but you had the car, but for the fact that you borrowed the car, it wouldn't have had this kind of damage.
Correct.
This damage. Good. Then we don't have a problem. What do you want?
Okay. She just got done stating that the car was hydroplaning earlier, okay?
It doesn't make any difference.
Excuse me. They made it home safely. She has a Jeep Cherokee parked in the same parking lot that she could have used her own vehicle to go to the store. There is no reason to take my little car back out.
Let me ask you this question. Now you're getting angry, and you already won. So you have to go, find your center.
I've been trying to do a lot of it. I've been trying to find a lot of my center.
And say, it's over.
But I would have never asked her son to use her car.
Listen to me. It's a car. She's responsible. Done. Romeo and Juliet here, going to leave here happy. I suggest you do the same. How much did it cost to fix your car?
The estimate is $1687.98.
That's a pretty cheap estimate for this kind of damage.
I think so.
It is. Anything else? Romeo, Juliet. Judging for the plaintiff in the amount of $1687.98. Thank you. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
29-year-old customer service rep Jason Selby is suing his ex-girlfriend, 25-year-old receptionist Anne Marie Burke, for having him falsely arrested for domestic violence twice. Anne Marie says she stands by her charges.
This is case number 10 on the calendar in the matter of Selby versus Burke. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, sir. Have a seat, please.
Mr. Selby, the defendant is your former girlfriend. You have a child together, and it is your claim that she filed 2 cases against you for domestic violence, both of which were false. One she dropped, the next one she pursued. You were found not guilty, and you are suing her for those false charges. Ms. Burke says that you did, in fact, put your hands on her in a violent manner on both of those occasions, which is why she called the police.
Yeah.
How old is your child?
He's almost 2.
Do you have an order declaring you to be the father of this child?
No.
Why not?
My name's not on the birth certificate because she was married when my son was born, and I'm not legally considered the father.
He is. He went to court and said that he was the father in my divorce.
Okay. Well, he may have gone to say he was the father in your divorce, but has there been an adjudication of paternity in any court?
No, ma'am. No.
Oh, you are, sir. Listen to me very carefully. I have a surprise for you. You're going to be very happy to hear this. It says the third-party defendant, that was you, Jason Selby, that is your name, is it not?
Correct.
Is hereby established as the biological father of the minor child, Brendan Selby.
Okay.
We're going to get you a copy of this, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
You are the father. You have certain rights and certain responsibilities, Mr. Selby. It's interesting when I read your case, when I read your complaint, the defendant is now living in another area, so you haven't been seeing your son. How old was your son when you two separated?
It was about 1.5 years.
Okay. Now, Ms. Burke, I'm coming to you. When was the first instance of domestic violence which was the subject of a restraining order that you placed upon Mr. Selby?
September.
Okay, and tell me what happened in September of 2004.
He came.
Who was this, by the way?
This is the guy that used to live up front, our neighbor, Robert Minion.
And what is he now?
A witness to both instances.
Okay. This is not the boyfriend that he talks about, is that right?
It's not the boyfriend. He's never been my boyfriend.
But he came with you to court?
Right.
And you live in Florida?
Right.
And he flew with you from Florida?
Right.
Did you
Yes.
stay together last night in the same place?
They wouldn't give us 2 separate hotel rooms.
I'm just asking you a question.
Yes.
Okay. I never stayed in the same hotel room with a neighbor when I traveled.
I asked, and they said that there was going to be at least 2 separate beds, because I asked her about that, about getting 2 separate hotel rooms.
Mm-hmm. You think I believe you? I don't. Let's move on. September 2004.
He came to the house, and we were arguing about Brendan, our son. I went into the room, and I was packing my stuff and putting it in a bag.
Just a second. So this was a place that you lived together?
Mm-hmm.
So he didn't come to your house?
He moved out. He had moved out when...
When had he moved out?
Maybe 2 days before that, because he had found a letter, and he went through my stuff. And
a letter from whom?
Me. It was stuff that I wrote about my feelings, about him and the way he treated me.
Okay.
And...
So he moved out?
He packed his stuff, yes, and left and went to his aunt's house, I believe.
Keep going.
And he pushed me back because I went to try to go around him in the bedroom to leave, and I told him to leave me alone and to let me go.
Well, what did he do?
He kept pushing me back.
That's not what you said in here. You said he pushed you once.
He kept trying to stop me from going.
Don't make things up as we're going along, Miss Burke. You said in your answer that he pushed you one time, not kept pushing you. Now, which one was it? Did he push you one time, as you swore to in your complaint, or did he push you multiple times, as you just told me?
He did push me one time, but he kept, like, holding, like, where I couldn't get around him. He would move over to the side to where I couldn't get around him. When I did get a...
Blocking, not pushing.
Right.
Go ahead.
Before I had gotten to the car is when he had shoved me from behind. We fell into the car. He wouldn't let me get into the car, and that's when Robert had called the police.
You have a police report?
Not with me, no.
Do you?
Yes.
I'd like to see it, please. All right, Mr. Selby, you want to tell me what happened on September 9th, please?
Can I start from September 8th?
If it's absolutely necessary. If it's not necessary, it's just going to irritate me.
September 8th, I was at work with her son Tyler because there were hurricanes, the schools were closed. When she came to pick me up from work, she brought Robert with her to pick me up from work. We went home.
On September 8th?
Correct. She left with Robert for approximately 2 hours. I knew she wrote that 19-page letter, so I went looking for it, and it confirmed they were together. She has since got her hands on it and destroyed it. There were police called that night because...
Why?
He threatened me that he was going to beat me up. Then he called the police because I was on his property, which it was like 2 places on 1 piece of land. The police came out and they escorted her off the property with the kids. September 9th, I found out she was packing not her stuff, but everything, my stuff, which I still don't have today. I never went into the bedroom where they said I pushed her. I was never in there. I was in the living room the whole time. I went to leave, get into my aunt and uncle's car. She ran to the car. I raced her to the car. I beat her to the car. No one fell. There were no tripping.
Why was she running to the car?
To take it.
Go ahead.
When I got in the car, Robert ran over on the phone, said he witnessed me hit her. I did it, I did it. I asked to speak to the cop. He wouldn't let me get on the phone.
Okay. Why did you drop that case?
Because Jason, we were going to try to reconcile and get back together, and he had told me that he was going to go to counseling, which I believe he did, in fact, go in January.
Counseling for what?
For being abusive mentally and physically, because September was not the first time that he has actually been in trouble for hitting me.
So you dropped those charges in September?
Right.
And when was the next time you filed an application for a restraining order?
February 3rd.
What was that about?
I got a call from my babysitter that I needed to call H&R Block, so I called them, and they said that my income tax had been denied because my children's Social Security numbers had come back that they were already claimed.
Did you claim both boys?
No, just Brendan.
Just
I got
Brendan.
it right here.
Okay.
It was my understanding that he claimed both the children.
So you were mistaken?
Right.
So, what did you do?
So I called him, and I told him that I was going to come over, and I went over to his house.
With whom?
With Robert.
Big mistake.
Right.
Big.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Don't make things up as you're going along. I can tell I have a truth meter back here. When somebody is giving me the business, my left eye starts to twitch.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jason Selby says, on 2 occasions, ex-girlfriend Anne Marie Burke had him falsely arrested for domestic violence.
So here's what we have, Ms. Burke. We have your husband who, according to the police report back in September, was of the belief that you were having an affair with Robert.
Right.
That's all over the police report. Whether you were or whether you weren't, I don't have to get into now. That's not my business. Quite frankly, I don't care. The fact that you shared a room together last night is some indication to me that you're more than just friendly neighbors. However, you knew that he was harboring that belief, so to bring Robert to his house was a large mistake.
Well, the only reason why I brought Robert was because he's the only one that I had as far as a male figure, because I am afraid of Jason.
Then you shouldn't have gone to his house. What do you think you were going to accomplish going to his house as opposed to asking him on the telephone what happened?
I couldn't ask him on the telephone because his phone was breaking up. There was...
Put your hand down. This was an emergency situation that you had to go over with him that day?
I was upset.
You were
I
angry.
wanted to talk to him.
Just a minute. You were angry.
Yes, ma'am.
So, you were angry and you called Robert to go over with you.
Right.
What happened when you got there?
I went up the stairs.
And where was Robert?
Sitting in the car.
Go ahead.
And I was going up the stairs and I asked him, you know, why did he do that? I said, you know, I'm trying to get money to get...
What do you mean, sir? Going up the stairs, I didn't hear him at the door. I didn't...
Oh, he was outside. When we pulled up, he was standing outside smoking, and we could see him the way his house is. There's stairs that go up this way, and you got to go around.
So you're going
ledge.
up the stairs, and as you're going up the stairs, what are you saying to him?
I asked him why he was, you know, why did he claim the kids?
That doesn't sound right to me, madam. You were asking him in the same kind of voice you were asking me?
No, I was angry. I mean, I wasn't yelling and screaming, but I was talking a lot louder than what I am now.
I assumed you were. Go ahead.
And I told him, I said, you know, that's not right that you claim Tyler. It's not right that, you know, I said, you haven't paid child support. You haven't come to see your kid. And I said, you know, you can at least let me claim the kids. You know, I'm trying to make it on my own.
That's not, you weren't having this whole discussion as you're walking upstairs, madam. That doesn't sound logical. If it doesn't sound logical, it's not true.
By the time I was steadily
I mean, I know what you're thinking, but that's not what you were saying to him as you were walking upstairs furious because you had just gotten the call from H&R Block, and the first person you called was Robert. How tall are you, Robert?
6 foot.
Yeah. Called Robert to come over with you. Okay. So you're walking up the stairs screaming. Go ahead.
I get around the corner, and we start talking, arguing. I told him that he's not a good father. We started arguing about that, about him not being a good dad and him not coming to see Brendan. I did tell him that he was and he asked me, you know, because I had called the IRS and found out that he can't legally claim Tyler, and that's what I told him he was for. And
no, you just said you was because I called the IRS.
Right.
You didn't go through this whole explanation. No. You just said, listen to me. Don't make things up as you're going along. I can tell I have a truth meter back here. When somebody has given me the business, my left eye starts to twitch. You got it? So you told him because you called the IRS.
Right.
Okay. And what happened next, Miss Burke?
I again told him that he was a bad father, and that's when he had smacked me in my eye. And he went in the house. I went running down the steps and got in the car, and I left.
Can I see the police report, please? Yes. Incident number 2. Did you seek medical treatment?
No.
Can I clarify that day? First, on January 24th, I called her because she told me she moved to South Florida and she was living with her brother in South Florida. Up until February 3rd, that's where I thought she was living. She told me if I tried to call down there to be in my son's life, she was going to get me in trouble for harassment. So I called the police to verify that. They said she could say whatever she wants, but it would be
Can we get to, please, to February 3rd?
February 3rd, I spoke to a family lawyer and the county courthouse. I couldn't file anything because I didn't know her address. That night, I got home from work, I was playing PlayStation, got a phone call on my cell phone, answered it, and there was low signal, and it didn't come in. She called back about 2 minutes later. She said, "Good, you're home, I'm coming over," and hung up on me. She pulled up. I was standing on the balcony. She got out of the car, and her first words were, "You're an effing thief."
Go ahead.
So I went right in the house, I shut the screen door, and we were separated the whole time by a screen door. Robert, I didn't know he was there until I got the copy of the police report. I never once saw him there. I called the police the minute she said, "You're," and she left. Called the police, explained that she falsified a report once before. I don't want to be in trouble. They assured me I wouldn't be in trouble. Police officer showed up at my door, told me that I was accused of hitting her, and I basically ended up going to jail.
How long?
For overnight.
What I don't understand, Miss Burke, is this. You testified a moment ago that you were afraid of this man, that he had been abusive to you. So I don't understand why you went over to his house.
Because I didn't think that having somebody with me that he would do anything. I didn't think that he would do that.
The person that you brought with you was sitting, according to you, in the car.
Right.
And the first words out of your mouth were what?
I told him he was a thief. I didn't...
No. You told him he was a blank thief.
No, I didn't say that. I did not say that. I told him he was a thief.
Okay. So the first thing that you said to him was, "You're a thief," as you were walking up the stairs.
Yes.
You were angry, agitated. Did you think that that was going to provoke him? Especially since you were wrong.
You're right.
And you think that if you hadn't gone over there to this person that you were really afraid of, that all this would have happened?
I didn't honestly think that he would do something with somebody there, because when we did pull up, he was leaning, you know, smoking a cigarette out over the...
Well, what did you intend to accomplish, Miss Burke? He had already claimed your son. You thought 2 sons, but he had already claimed your son on his tax returns. That was done.
I thought that he would help.
You thought that he would help, and your first statement to him was, "You're a thief"? That's the way you wanted to start this exchange, this friendly exchange? Now, Mr. Selby, have you ever exercised poor judgment with regard to Miss Burke?
Yeah, meeting her, unfortunately.
Well, I'm not talking about just meeting her. I'm talking about other things. Have you ever exercised poor judgment?
Yes.
And have you ever exercised poor judgment when the police weren't called?
Probably.
The primary thrust of your complaint here is that you were embarrassed.
For the defamation of character.
Right. I can understand that that happened. And I think that you deserve to be compensated for that, because I don't believe that you hit her.
Thank you.
And clearly neither did a court. If you ever want to have a relationship with this child, it's your responsibility to go into court immediately and seek an order of visitation and be prepared to enter into an order of support for your son. She didn't move out of state, but she moved away from where the 2 of you were living. Certainly, you wouldn't like it if he took the child, would you?
I actually set up dates for him to come see his son.
How far away did you move?
Like 10 minutes. I only live like 10 minutes away from him, and my phone number's
then what are
never
you
changed.
complaining about, Mr. Selby?
To this day, I don't know where she lives.
He's always known where I lived, and he knows my phone number. It's never changed.
Easy. If you say he knows where you live, where do you live?
My new address is 216 Street.
When did you move there?
Probably like a month ago.
Did you give him that address?
No.
So he doesn't have that address?
He has my phone number.
Listen to me, Miss Burke. I speak English. It's my primary language. You say he's always known my address. He's always known where I lived.
From the time that he has been trying to visit his son, he has always known the house that I have stayed in.
You said that you moved.
I moved.
I don't understand. Stayed in, lived. You know, you're being slick with me. Don't be slick with me.
I'm not trying to be slick. I'm
Mr.
nervous,
Selby,
and he's had the
you
opportunity.
Go to court. Establish an order of visitation. That's what you have to do. She didn't move 100 miles away. According to her, she lives no more than 10 or 15 minutes away from where you live. Is that what you're swearing to today, madam?
Yes.
Well, that's what you have to do.
In order, I tried, but I don't have a physical address where she is.
Well, now she just gave it to you.
Right. And in the beginning, she moved right in with Robert. So I wasn't
there's
gonna
no
go
question
visit.
about that. She identifies Robert, and Robert identifies himself as her live-in roommate.
Yeah, it's going to be very tough
just
for
a second.
me.
very live-in. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,500. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Teresa Gatto is suing her nephew's classmate, 12-year-old Pierre Guillet, and his father, Francois. Teresa says Pierre knocked out her nephew's tooth during a fight.
Now, this is case number 22 on the calendar in the matter of Gatto versus Guillet. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have seats, please.
Not you. Ms. Gatto, this is your son?
This is my nephew. I'm legal guardian to him. I'm raising him, Your Honor.
And according to your complaint, this young man broke his tooth, and you want his family to pay for the dental work that's going to take to fix that tooth.
That's correct,
right?
Your Honor.
All right, so I want all the parents and guardians to have a seat, because you weren't there when it happened, right?
Right.
You don't know what happened. Only these two guys know what happened. So you're going to tell me all about it, right?
Right.
Tell me your name.
Anthony DiGirolamo.
And yours?
Pierre.
How old are you, Anthony?
12.
Pierre?
12.
How long have you known each other?
Since 4th grade.
Do you like each other?
Yes. Yes.
Did you ever have any problems with each other?
No. Yes.
What kind of problems did you have with Anthony?
He's calling me very rude names.
When did he start calling you names?
In the 4th grade when he came to the school.
But I thought you just told me you liked each other.
Well, yeah, I've been inviting him to stuff like birthday parties, movies, stuff like that.
Does he come?
Yeah.
Does he invite you?
No. He only invites...
Shh.
Yes, I do invite him to stuff. Like, I invited him to my birthday party in the 4th grade, and I invited him to another party, too.
When?
I think it was in the 4th grade, too.
So you're talking about 4 years ago?
Yeah.
I'm not talking about 4 years ago. I'm talking about yesterday.
Okay.
So, since the 4th grade, you haven't invited him to anything?
Not really.
Has he invited you?
I think only once in 5th grade.
What about in 6th grade?
No. Last year, he came to my birthday party in July.
Is that right?
I believe, yes.
Okay. So even though he called you names you didn't like, you still invited him to your party?
Right.
Now, why don't you tell me, Anthony, what happened on March the 2nd?
Okay. I was inside of a pizza shop, and Pierre and Christopher followed me inside. And when I ordered my food, I sat down, and Pierre poured cheese all over my head.
Where did you get the cheese from, Pierre?
It was in the pizzeria. It was Parmesan cheese.
You mean from one of those little glass containers? Yeah. And you shook the cheese out on his head?
No, I just put it on his ear.
Put it on his ear. Why did you do that?
Because right before outside the pizzeria, he was calling me a lot of names.
Were you doing that, Anthony?
I called him one time, and the reason why I called him the names was a few days before that. When I went inside the pizzeria, he would always, when I got up, he would always sit next to my book bag and not let me sit down. And sometimes him and Chris would take my book bag and run around the block with it so I couldn't get it.
So they had teased you a couple of days before?
Yes.
Is that right, Pierre?
No, he teases me.
Okay. So you put a little cheese on his ear. And then what did you do, Anthony?
Then I ran out after him and I kicked him.
Where were you both when you kicked him? Inside the pizza store or outside?
Outside.
And where did you kick him? On his leg?
On his butt.
You can't do that to somebody. That's an assault. You could have hurt him, right?
Right.
And then what did you do after you kicked him?
Then I went back into the pizzeria to get my food, right? And then I told him to go back to the sewer.
Well, just a second. You mean he followed you back into the pizzeria?
Right.
And what happened next?
And then I was standing at the counter, and he came up to me, and then he slammed my head onto the counter.
And that's when your tooth broke?
Right.
Now I'm going to hear your side of the story.
He didn't kick me in the behind, Your Honor. He kicked me in the leg, not just once, but like 5 to 6 times in the leg.
What did you say to him when he kicked you?
I didn't say anything. I didn't run out anyway.
You just walked out?
Right, and then...
So you didn't get any food?
Right.
So you went in there, and your purpose for going in there was to put cheese on his head. You know that was the wrong thing to do.
Yes.
Okay. Now, tell me about when you hit his head into the counter.
Before that, when he said go back to the sewer, he gave me the finger, then said go back to the sewer. Then I walked up to him and I pushed him like that.
And that's when he hurt his mouth?
Right, and then I ran out.
Why did you run out?
Because I didn't want him to attack me again.
Go ahead.
Okay. He didn't just go like that to me. He actually went like that, not like soft. He hit my head onto the...
How hard did you kick him in the butt?
Not really hard, because I was running and trying to do it.
You think that was the right thing to do?
No.
Your guardian think that was the right thing to do?
No, Your Honor, I didn't. But he was bothering him days before that, Your Honor.
I'm not saying that Pierre did the right thing. Pierre did the wrong thing. So did Anthony.
Absolutely.
Now, Anthony, had you ever broken this tooth before?
Yes, it was chipped.
And when this incident happened with Pierre, it was chipped again.
It was broken this time, and it hurts now. Like, my tooth is sensitive to hot and cold.
But you still have the tooth.
I have part of it. And this is like a temporary thing.
Temporary cap.
Yes.
Now, do you think, Anthony, that you are partially responsible for what happened that day?
Partially, a little bit.
Do you think he's partially responsible for what happened that day?
Well, Your Honor, in a way I do, but in a way I don't, because he's been bullied. I mean, he's been bullied by the kid.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
Mr. Hoyt can taxi out of his driveway and taxi directly onto the runway.
Why do you think he would choose not to do that?
Because he likes to show off.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 12-year-old Anthony DiGirolamo says his classmate, 12-year-old Pierre Guillet, poured cheese on his head and pushed his face onto a counter, knocking out his tooth. Pierre says Anthony kicked him first.
Now, the objective data is that Pierre has invited your nephew to his home, to parties, as recently as... Listen to me. No. According to your nephew, it's been 4 years since he invited him to a party. That's according to your nephew.
Okay, that was
It's been 4 years. But last summer, he was invited to his birthday party. And there's no question that between the two of them, each one of them believes that the other one isn't behaving right. So all I'm saying to you is, both of these young men behaved badly.
You're right.
He had no right to go in there and put Parmesan cheese on his head or ear. Right? He had no right to kick him in the butt. So, how much did it cost you at the dentist to fix your tooth?
It's not totally fixed yet, Your Honor. They have to wait for the nerve to come down and get a little longer.
Okay. It's probably going to cost you at least the $1,500 that you're suing for to have a permanent cap put on his tooth, and I think that he's partially responsible.
Yes, Your Honor.
So, your actions that day are going to cost your guardian, your aunt, $750. That's all you're getting from them, $750. You got to learn to keep your hands to yourself. We understand each other?
Yes, Your Honor.
Good. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
When I looked at Anthony, his mouth was out the hair and he was covered with blood and he had no tooth there.
He makes fun of everyone in the school.
He started to bully me around, and I got mad at him.
I couldn't take it anymore.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Hoyt versus Champ. Step forward, please.
Lumber salesman Robert Hoyt is suing his neighbor, Juanita Champ, for damage to his airplane. Robert says Juanita left a trash can in the taxiway.
Mr. Hoyt, I am so pleased that you brought that diagram. You don't happen to have a picture, do you?
I do.
I'd really like to take a look at the picture while I'm sort of recapping what I think happened in this case, or at least what you allege. You and the defendants live in a community where a whole bunch of people have airplanes. And instead of garages, there are hangars.
In addition to garages, there are hangars.
I wasn't looking to shortchange you, Miss Champ. I said there were big hangars for planes, but I'm sure you also have a car.
We do.
And it is your claim that you were taxiing your plane in an area where you are allowed to taxi your plane. It also serves as a street. And that the defendant placed her garbage can outside on your street/runway. As a result of that, you clipped the wing of your plane, causing damage, right?
Correct.
And Miss Champ's defense is you weren't looking where you were going.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, show me what happened.
On May 21st, while taxiing out of my driveway to the neighborhood road, which acts as the taxiway, I S-turned all the way
S-turn.
down.
What's an S-turn?
It's going back in the shape of an S, back and forth. I have a tail dragger.
Why do you do that?
I have a tail dragger biplane where you cannot see over the nose of the biplane. So in order to taxi correctly, you have to do S-turns on the taxiway. And as you turn to your left, you look right. As you turn to your right, you look left.
Why did you get a plane where you can't see over the nose?
It's in the aerobatic biplanes. To reduce drag, you don't have a nose wheel, so they give you a tail wheel. And also, if you're taking off, grass runways, it gives you more prop clearance. So this is.
Sorry, I asked you. Okay, so you're zigging and zagging in order to get to the runway.
Correct.
Go.
And 3/4 of the way down, Miss Champ lives, and upon taxiing, and hit her garbage can.
She's not allowed to have a garbage can on her property?
She is allowed to have a garbage can on her property, but the easement for the safe passage on the taxiway, 25 feet off center, is to have no obstructions. And an additional 10 feet beyond, there's to be nothing exceeding 2 feet in height. This garbage can is 3 feet and 2 inches, and she chose to put it alongside the taxiway. I have a videotape that also will show this, and I have the CCNRs, which will state this.
Take the videotape, Bert, for me.
Sure.
Put it in. And let me take a look at that
And there's the
regulation.
And also, Your Honor, from our Neighborhood Safety Committee, which will show that CCNR. You can see the can, which is circled with a red dot.
That looks like the can's out in the middle of the street.
Yeah, I don't. That's
Can
not on
is
grass, sir.
never in the middle of the street.
Shh.
Oh, sorry.
Was your garbage can outside?
Yes, it was.
Was your garbage can 10 feet in from your property line?
Probably not.
Why?
Well, every Wednesday the garbage cans are out there. Mr. Hoyt's also has been out there all that same time.
Mr. Hoyt, do you place your garbage cans out for collection every Wednesday?
Nope. Garbage is on Thursday, and mine go out Thursday morning.
You have different people picking up garbage in your area?
We place ours out in the evening because we don't want to get up before 7 a.m. But ours was out early that day.
Was this a Wednesday or a Thursday?
This was a Wednesday morning.
It was Wednesday because we were going on vacation and we put our garbage can out a few hours before we would normally put them out.
Okay. Now, when you put your trash cans out on Thursday morning, sir, I would assume that you put them out closer than 10 feet just that one day, and everybody is aware of that. Is that right?
That one day, sure.
Yes. I knew I was going to get there. So on Thursday, everybody is aware. Watch out on Thursday morning because the garbage cans are out there. Is that right, Mr. Hoyt?
That's correct.
But this was out Wednesday morning, so you weren't expecting garbage cans to be out Wednesday morning.
No.
I got it. I'm going to get to you in a minute.
Okay.
Okay.
I got a lot to say.
Well, I'm going to get there.
Okay.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Robert Hoyt says neighbor Juanita Champ owes for damage to his airplane. Robert claims she left a trash can in the taxiway.
Okay. Mr. Hoyt, would anything prevent you, if you wanted to take your plane out for a spin, to get into your car, take a ride down the 1/4 mile and see whether there are any obstructions in the road? Would anything prevent you from doing that?
Nothing would prevent me from
Don't
doing
you
that.
think that that's a good idea, sir?
In light of what happened, that's a prudent thing to do.
Absolutely, because it could have just as easily been a bunch of kids there as a garbage can.
I agree.
And if you can't see, then it's up to you to be particularly careful, right?
Correct.
Now we're going to get to Miss Champ, who told me she has a whole bunch to say. Go!
Okay, thank you, Judge Judy. One of my premises is that Mr. Hoyt can taxi out of his driveway, go directly across our road, and taxi directly onto the runway.
Why do you think he would choose not to do that?
Because he likes to show off.
Well, explain that to me.
He had a passenger on board his airplane. He was trying to show off the neighborhood.
Is there a passenger on board your plane?
Doyce Bishop was my passenger at the time.
Okay. So Mr. Hoyt knows that you can't see over the front of his plane. It would seem to me that if you don't have at all times a clear view of what's in front of you, then you have to make darn sure that the area is clear. So you have partial responsibility and at least are contributorily negligent yourself in maneuvering your plane in such a way that you cause damage to it. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying it's all your fault, but I'm saying it's at least half your fault, and I haven't let Miss Champ finish, because she's got a lot more to tell me. Okay, so you think he was showing off, but you weren't there?
I was not there, but I have witnesses who were there.
Okay, I'll hear the witnesses. Tell me your name.
William Peterson.
Mr. Peterson, were you present on May 21st, 2003?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
My wife and I were out in the yard. Bob come taxiing by, and he was doing his weaving. And he looked over at us and waved. And I'm sure that distracted his attention.
You remember that, sir?
Waved to not go move his truck. That's what he was signaling. He goes to get in his truck, and I'm like, no. And you can see his truck parked there. I diligently avoided his truck. Her garbage can, from visibility of the cockpit, was sitting behind the truck. And as I did my S-turn, so my wing avoided his truck, I did not leave the taxiway. I taxied to the right. When I did my next S-turn, I'm now pointed directly at a garbage can that should not be there. As you can see, nobody else's is.
So what you were trying to do, sir, is to avoid his truck.
Absolutely.
Now, if his truck had not been there,
I would have seen the can.
could you have seen it if you got in your car before you got in your plane and drove that quarter mile up the road to see if there were any obstructions?
I had picked up Doyce and his son and another friend at the airport. When we came back that morning, we probably came back before Juanita put it out.
Well, what time was that?
I don't remember the exact time when you came in the morning, but...
10 o'clock.
How long did it take you to get back to Mr. Hoyt's house?
It was probably about 11 o'clock when we were taxiing, so...
Okay, who put your garbage cans out?
Actually, my husband did.
What time?
Boy, that's been a year ago. My guess would be 10:30 maybe.
How long of a drive is it from where he picked you up to where he brought you back to his house?
It must have been 45 minutes, I'm guessing.
So it was a pretty close thing as to whether the garbage can got out there before or after you got into your car. I don't know. Now, after he hit the garbage can, did he stop his plane?
Yes.
Got out and looked at it?
No, he did not. I come running over there, and all the garbage is blowing all over the place. And he says, would you look under my wing and see if you see any damage? Well, it's a fabric airplane with ribs, so it, you got the dips. I looked under it, and I could not see any damage. And so I says, I do not see any. And so then he
took off. Did you go flying that day?
Yep. Yes, I did.
How long did you fly that day?
Probably about 35 minutes, 40 minutes total.
Let me ask you this question, Mr. Hoyt. Because you flew that day, did it exacerbate any damage that was done by the garbage can?
No.
Well, if your wing was so damaged and your plane is fabric plane, right?
Correct.
And you're telling me that you don't think that a fabric plane's wing could be further damaged by flying it for an additional 35 minutes after an injury?
No, they could.
Well, Ms. Champ, I think you're absolutely adorable, but I think that you have some responsibility with regard to this accident because you did put your trash can out on a day when he was not anticipating that it was going to be out there. You acknowledge yourself that it wasn't beyond 10 feet of the property line, which was the agreement of all residents. That doesn't excuse Mr. Hoyt from doing everything that he should have done. He should have inspected that area, and in addition to that, he drove the plane after this incident, which could have further exacerbated whatever injury was done to the plane's wing on the 21st of May. So I think that you bear the greatest responsibility, Mr. Hoyt. I'm giving you $1,000 towards your bill, judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,000. Thank you very much.
Marketing director Paula Sharia is suing her son, 20-year-old cook Joe Hapka, for the return of a car and car payments. Joe says his mom is trying to control his life.
Yeah, this is case number 42 on the calendar in the matter of Sharia versus Hapka. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat.
Mrs. Sharia, this is your son.
Yes.
And your claim is that you co-signed a loan for him for an automobile several years ago. He made payments regularly for a long time. Then he stopped making the payments.
Right.
And you have been forced to make, I believe, the last 8 payments on the car in order for the credit company not to cause a default on the loan. And since he's not making the payments, you want him to give you the car so that you can sell it and perhaps recoup some of the loss since he's not making the payments. Your son says this is not about the car because he has been making regular payments on the car for the last 8 months, even after you kicked him out of your house. He says that it's all about control, that since you can't control his life and you don't like his friends, you want to take his car away because that's the only thing he's got. That's your defense?
That's right.
Okay. How old are you, Joe?
20.
Do you have siblings?
I have a brother.
How old is your brother?
23.
Okay. Do you see him regularly?
Yeah.
Yes. Try yes.
Yes.
And what about your mom? Does he see your mom?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, so they're close. So there's two boys.
Yes.
She's close to the older son. And according to what I read in her complaint and your answer, she was pretty good to you also.
Yes.
You needed a car several years ago. You were 18.
Yeah. Yes.
Where's your father?
My father, he lives somewhere in Cheektowaga in New York. I don't really talk to him. I didn't really have a relationship with him.
Did you, look at me, Joe, did your mother always work when you were little?
Yes.
And who do you think supported you and your brother?
She did.
Okay. First of all, it goes without saying that you and your mom had an agreement that she would co-sign for this car, but you would make the monthly payments. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
And you did, according to your mom, make them for a very long time. When did he stop making payments on the car?
In September of 03.
And is that when you started to make the payments?
Yes.
Do you have proof that you made those payments?
Oh, yes.
May I see them, please? Now, before September of 2003, who would make the payments?
Joe would. Joe would give me the money or his paycheck, and he used to give me $40 a week to cover the payments. And then all of a sudden, he started saying, well, I want to just give them to you at the end of the month or the beginning of the month when it was due. Then it came to the point where he changed. He was going to school. That's why I co-signed for the loan. He was working 2 jobs. I have a big lot. He was mowing all the lawn. He was taking care of his chores, his room, and everything. Then he gets transferred over to a different pizza place, then meets up with some kids, and all of a sudden, he stayed out until 5 o'clock in the morning. He didn't tell me. He told me he doesn't have to tell me where he was. He quit school, stopped going little by little till he quit school.
What school was he going to?
He was going for electronics. I told him that if he went for electronics, that I would help him start a business in it. And he was doing everything right. All of a sudden, he was trashing his room. There was food, there was clothes, there was breaking the ceiling, the wall, you know. And I went downstairs. I opened up a book that was down there. I found some marijuana in there. He told me that it was his friends. He was just holding it for them. I used to give picnic parties, and he used to be the kind of kid, he was such a good kid that he used to hold a beer in front of him while everyone else was drinking, and by the end of the party, I would dump it out because he never really liked it.
Okay. September of 2003, is that when he stopped making all the payments?
Yes, he didn't give me a payment at all that month. And that is when I kicked him out. The reason I kicked him out is for tough love.
Joe? Look at me, Joe.
Okay.
So your mom, who took care of you and your brother, because I gather your father wasn't much of a participant, who wanted to help you secure your future, are you telling me that your mother is lying to me in court when she says that you stopped making payments to her on the car?
Yes.
Tell me about it.
Well, she was right. I was giving her the payments, the $4 a week for the longest time, and once I didn't really quit school. I got thrown out of school.
Why?
I missed too many days.
Why
like
did you
10
miss
days in 1 year.
Why did you miss so many days, Joe? Look at me. Don't look down.
I was working 2 jobs. It was just hard to get there sometimes.
So tell me about these new friends that you had that your mom didn't approve of.
I don't even know what that's really about, new friends.
Tell me about the marijuana she found in the house.
That wasn't mine.
Whose was it? Look at me. Don't look down. Look at me. Whose was it?
It was a friend of mine's.
What were you doing with it?
He asked me to hold it so his mom wouldn't find it, and then she found it.
Well, that's not a friend. A friend doesn't ask you to do something wrong so that his mom wouldn't find it and place you in a situation where your mother found it. That's not a friend. And that's not somebody who's very smart that'll do that. Joe.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I'm 20 years old. I still have to live perfectly to her rules. I can't do anything. I can't see anybody.
Joe, listen to me.
Yeah.
If you live in her house, she owns the air you breathe.
And later today,
she said that she would agree to talk to me, and then she started insulting me. And I said, I'm coming for my stuff right now. She said no, I could not have my stuff.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Paula Sharia says her son, Joe Hapka, needs to get his life together. She is suing for the return of a car and car payments.
Did you give her money last week?
No.
Did you give her money 4 weeks ago?
No.
So it's been some time since you gave her money. If you had to rent a car, you'd pay for it, right?
Well, I didn't trust her to give her the money because she's saying that, because I don't have my own book to send the payments in. She had her own book from the bank that she kept. That's why I gave her the money. She mailed in the payments. I kept doing that until I got a subpoena that I haven't been paying for.
So what you're telling me is you are prepared right now, if she gave you the book, listen to me, if she gave you the book, you're prepared to resume payments on the car. Is that right?
Yeah.
Can I see the book, please?
Sure.
Good.
Your Honor, he hasn't paid insurance since at least March. I got a paper stating that because he didn't pay insurance, his license is suspended. He's still driving, and this has been since March at least. He was in a car accident in March.
Is that right, Joe?
And they're suing him.
Since I got a letter saying that my license was suspended, that I haven't drove it since then. It's been parked at my brother's house.
Well, so you're telling me that you are going to make these payments even though you can't drive the car?
Well, it's just until I ran out. I didn't have money for insurance at the time, so that was,
just
I had
a
insurance lapse.
Just a second. Why didn't you have money for insurance?
I just wasn't making enough.
Don't you think you ought to get rid of this car?
No. I need the car. I really don't have anything. She kicked me out. I'm living basically on the street in my car, and she wants to take my car.
Well, you didn't sleep in your car 2 nights ago. So.
No, I didn't, but there's been times.
So listen, if you had behaved yourself, she wouldn't have kicked you out?
I'm 20 years old. I still have to live perfectly to her rules. No, I can't do anything.
Joe,
I can't see anybody.
Joe, listen to me. You do not, sir. You don't have to listen to your mother. You don't have to abide by her rules. Only if you live in her house. If you live in her house, she owns the air you breathe. And she doesn't have to wait until you decide to come home because she's going to be up at night wondering whether you're home safely or not. So you can't meander in at 5 o'clock in the morning. And you can't have friends over that she doesn't like. And you can't, listen to me, right. And you don't have a room. You don't have a room. She allows you to live in a room in her house. Evidently, whatever you were contributing to the household was not sufficient to balance the aggravation that your new lifestyle was posing for your mother. Shh. Step up. Tell me your name.
Richard Collado.
How do you know him?
Basically, I didn't graduate with his brother's brother. I didn't graduate, but I went to school with his brother, and his brother now lives with me.
You, I assume, believe that you have something to contribute to this case.
Yeah. I've seen him pay her twice. Once
when?
Once in September.
And once when?
And then a little in January.
Tell me about the time that you saw him give his mother money in January 2004.
Basically, she came over, I think, to see his brother, Frank, who was living with me. And I was sleeping on the couch. It was a Saturday or Sunday. I remember being woken up by her complaining that he was about, I think, $50, $60 short. Something that I considered significant to disturb my sleep over, but I remember being woken up because he was short on a car payment. So he didn't have the total payment, but he did pay her something.
You remember that discussion?
Your Honor, I have never seen this kid before in my life. I don't know who he is. I don't know if he is a friend of my other sons. I have never met him.
You may not have been sleeping on the couch. Do you remember going over to your son sometime in January of 2004 and having a discussion about a short car payment?
No. What I have done is I have complained on the phone at his job, and I have pleaded with his brother to try and get him to pay me something. I have been, my stomach has been in a knot. I've been crying, upset. I mean, and I haven't said you're $50 short. He's short the whole entire payment.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
I was going to let him stay, but I just could not deal with that because, you know, the relationship was over. It was very hard to be there.
So you were happy that he left?
Yes, I was, because I could not take it anymore.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Paula Sharia says her son, Joe Hapka, needs to get his life together. She is suing for the return of a car and car payments.
Joe, according to you, it is your intention to pay this. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I do not believe that you have made your car payments, and one of the reasons I don't believe that you made your car payments is because you didn't even make your insurance payments on the car. So your mother made $1,200 worth of car payments for you over the last 8 months, and that you owe her. Now, I'm giving you back this book. This book is now your responsibility. I am telling you that it is now on the record that it is your intention to assume full responsibility for making those car payments this day forward. Do we understand each other?
Yes.
But since you have now stated to me that your intention is to make these payments yourself, if your mother has to make these payments for you, she has the right to pursue you civilly, garnish your wages, to recoup whatever money you don't pay on the car. Do I make myself clear?
Yes.
Good. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Perfect. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,200, which represents the amount of payments that she's made on the car. You no longer have any responsibility between the two of you. He's taking over his own car payments. Unfortunately, I cannot direct that he return the car to you, nor can I give you all the money that you owe on the car, because before you co-sign for somebody, you have to think twice about doing that. He has now assumed full responsibility for the car. It's all yours, babe. Take care of it. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He's driving without a license right now. I'm very concerned for his future. I wanted him to go to school. I wanted him to have a business.
She didn't want me to go anywhere. If I left the house late at night, where are you going? I mean, I'm 20 years old.
Maybe he looks at it as though I was controlling him, but when he gave me the payments I made for his car, at least I knew they were paid because that was our agreement when I co-signed.
I have my own car, I have my own life, my own job. You can't be telling me what to do this late. I mean, it's ridiculous.
I just hope that he wakes up and goes back to the way he used to be. He was very self-controlled. He had a goal, a mindset. He was a good kid.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Armendariz versus Barrett. Step forward, please.
26-year-old retail clerk Lena Armendariz is suing her ex-boyfriend, 24-year-old waiter Ryan Barrett, for an unpaid loan for rent. Ryan is countersuing for his waterbed, rollerblades, and computer.
Ms. Armendariz, Mr. Barrett and you lived together for a period of time. He was your boyfriend, and according to your complaint, he ran into some tough financial times, couldn't pay his rent for a few months, and you loaned him the money to pay his share of the rent.
That's right.
He moved out, and you want that money back. Mr. Barrett says this was not a loan. You were living together. You were a couple living together. You went into some hard times, and you just covered the rent until he moved out and found his own place. He is counterclaiming because he said at some point he decided he wanted to come back and get his property that he had left behind, and you told him that he couldn't until he paid the rent that he owed you. So he is counterclaiming for his waterbed, rollerblades, and a computer.
That's correct.
When did you move in?
We moved in together in March of 2003.
Did you have a lease?
We did have a lease, yes.
How long was the lease?
It wasn't a specific length of time.
Actually, there was, Your Honor, I have this right here, the lease copy. It's for, it has the date right over there, right there on there.
Could you show this to the defendant, please? Ask him if that's his signature.
Yes, it's my signature.
That's a lease.
Yes.
So you had a lease?
We had a lease.
The lease was for 1 year. When did you move out?
I moved out in September. Actually, October, rather.
She's not suing you for the rent during that time. When did you stop paying rent?
I stopped paying in the end of September. I didn't pay for October because I was not living there in October.
He was actually, Your Honor.
Just a second. When did you go back to get your property?
I tried to go back and get my property several times, and every time...
According to your answer, you'd say you went back in December.
The first time was not in December. The first time was in October, and then again in November.
Okay, in October, did you take any property with you?
I took some property, the stuff that I could fit inside of a small car.
Then you went back again in November.
Right.
What happened in November when you went back?
There was nobody there.
And then, according to you, you went back in December.
Right.
Did you tell her why you were coming back?
Yes.
And what did she say to you?
She said that she would agree to talk to me. And we went to talk. And then she started insulting me. So I left. And when I came back again, I called her again on the way back to the house. And I said, I'm coming for my stuff right now. She said no. I could not have my stuff.
You want to tell me why you moved out?
I moved out because we broke up and she told me to get out.
Is that right?
That is right, but the thing what happened is I was going to let him stay there, you know, until he got himself together and got, you know, money and everything. But I just could not deal with that because, you know, I know it's not very relevant to it, but, you know, the relationship was over. It was very hard to be there.
So you were happy that he left?
Well, yes, I was, because I could not take it anymore. And he wanted to try to work it out, to try to, you know, make payments to me and everything.
I wanted my property back, honestly.
Just a minute. So
he did not say he wanted to...
Just a second. So when you discussed it, you discussed making payments. Is that right, sir?
I told her that I would...
Just answer my question. Stop tap dancing. I said, did you in fact tell her that you would make payments?
Yes.
Great. And what happened?
What happened? I tried to contact her to set up a time to make payments.
To make payments? To make payments. Had you come to an agreement on the amount?
I went ahead and I said yes to her amount.
Which was what amount, sir?
It was $900 at the time.
Why didn't that come to fruition?
That did not come to fruition because she wanted to go to a notary and have it done there. So I said, okay, fine. We'll go to a notary. And when I tried contacting her in order to set up a time and date to go, she said, no, I'm busy. I'm busy. I don't have time for this. And I waited for a response. Never got anything.
Okay. So you did agree to pay $900 in payments. Oh, that was a long time getting there. Now, you have his waterbed?
I have...
Just answer my question. You have his waterbed?
Yes, I still have the waterbed and the computer.
Good. And what about the rollerblades?
I never saw any rollerblades. He never told me he wanted the rollerblades. He just said the waterbed and the computer.
Now, when do you want to go and pick them up?
I'd be willing to go pick them up at any time.
Fine. 5 days from today, you can go in the company of a peace officer. I will prepare an order that you may pick up your waterbed and your computer. That takes care of your counterclaim.
That wasn't the only stuff on his counterclaim.
I didn't ask you a thing. It's the only thing that I see on his counterclaim. His waterbed and his computer. She does not have his rollerblades. And as far as the plaintiff's claim is concerned, the defendant finally acknowledges that he owed the plaintiff $900. He was in agreement to make payments on that amount to her. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $900. Thank you very much.
21-year-old student Amber Hunting is suing fellow student 21-year-old Daniel Rodriguez for damaging 2 of her vehicles by kicking them. Daniel says Amber and her friends cheated on a poker hand.
Now, this is case number 91 on the calendar in the matter of Hunting versus Rodriguez. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ladies, have a seat, please.
Miss Hunting, according to what I read, there was a poker game that was going on in your home?
Correct.
And the defendant was one of the participants in the game. There was some sort of a disagreement as to who had the winning hand. Defendant lost, and you claimed that in a tiff, when he left, he damaged your car. He says he didn't do it. How do you know him?
He is just a friend of a friend, and he was invited to my house by our mutual friend.
Do you have a regular poker game that goes on in your house?
No, it was just for fun.
How many people were there?
6.
Men or women?
There were 2 women and 4 men.
How many of the men did you know?
3 of them.
He was the only one you didn't know?
Correct.
What about the other woman?
She's my witness, Tristan.
So tell me what happened.
Well, it was August 27th, 2004, and we just had a gathering at my house of friends, and he came with our friend Robert, and I had no reservations about it. I was okay with that. And I think he had been drinking before he came over, but I still wasn't really concerned. He decided to participate in our game, and it had gone on for a good couple hours with no problems. We were all just hanging out having fun, no problems at all. And then when he had thought he won a hand and there was some questions about it, he kind of got defensive and aggressive when we tried to tell him otherwise. And he got angry at us, and he started calling names and pushing people and getting up and getting violent.
So what happened next?
Well, we tried to break it up. He tried to fight my boyfriend. He was calling names. He picked up a bike and actually threw it across the deck and bruised my friend's arm. I have a picture.
Did you do that?
No, ma'am.
Why would she make up such a story?
I don't know. I can't
Did
really
you lose a hand in
speculate.
poker?
No, ma'am. I still remember the hand.
Well, was there some sort of a dispute as to whether you won?
Yes, ma'am.
So you won the game,
Yes, ma'am.
and then they told you you lost the game and couldn't take the money.
Actually, her boyfriend had agreed that I won, and then she jumped in the middle, tried to read his cards, said, no, you won, look at your hand. He looked, and then he agreed, tried to take the money. But he already called the wrong hand. He called a hand lower than mine. I started taking the money down. He kept trying to argue with me. She kept jumping in the middle. I admit I did call her, but it wasn't really directed towards her. It was like, I don't want to hear what any have to say when two men are playing a game. It's our money, it's our game. No one else is in the game.
The women weren't playing?
No, they already lost.
Sorry.
They already lost all their money, so there's only
But
three
the
people
women
left.
had been playing,
Yes, ma'am.
and you did play with the women.
Yes, ma'am.
So it wasn't as if you don't want to play with women, that it was
Oh,
just a
no.
man's game.
No, we were all playing. They lost. There were three of us left.
And nothing happened with the bicycle.
No, there was a bike in the way, but I was getting pulled out of their house, and I bumped into a bike. I never picked a bike up, threw it, or anything like that.
Okay, then according to you, Miss Hunting, Mr. Rodriguez damaged your car when he left. How did he damage your car?
He damaged 2 vehicles. He was inside, and it took a good 15 minutes to get him calmed down. We were trying to calm him down. He wouldn't calm down, so he was physically removed from my house.
How was he physically removed?
By our friend Robert.
Is that right?
Yeah, he escorted me out of the house.
He pulled you out?
Yes, ma'am.
You didn't want to leave?
No, her boyfriend had tried to start a fight with me, so I stood up. We were in a fight, and he didn't want to fight, and then her mom came in, said we're going to call the police. Told her to call the police, you know. They're trying to rob me of my money.
So you still felt as if you were owed that money
Yes,
in the
ma'am.
pot. So you didn't want to leave without your money.
No, ma'am.
So you were pulled out by Robert.
Yes, ma'am.
And what happened when you were pulled out, Mr. Rodriguez?
Well, he pulled me out, but right before the door closed, I said, look, you know, I'll leave, but I want my money, at least the money I put into the pot in the beginning. They went and got my money. He gave it to me. He walked to his car and got in and left.
Who walked to the car?
Me and Robert.
Robert was the one who had brought you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Who was a friend of yours?
Yes, ma'am.
Is he still a friend of yours?
Yeah.
See him?
Yeah. He lives on the same street, so, yeah, we see
Good.
each other.
And you claim that he damaged cars when he left. You have any witness? Did you see him do that?
I actually have Robert here as a witness.
Really? Bring him in. And Robert is your friend?
Yes, ma'am.
So Robert wouldn't lie for her?
I can't speak on that. He's intimate with her friends, so a lot of people do a lot of things when they're with somebody.
I don't think that's important.
Swear the witness, please.
Raise your right hand, sir. Do you swear to tell the truth in these matters?
Yes, I do.
State your name for the record, please.
Robert Silva.
Mr. Silva, Mr. Rodriguez says that you're a friend of his. Is that right?
That's correct.
How long have you known him?
About 15, 16 years.
You invited him to a party on the 27th of August at Miss Hunting's home. Is that right?
Yes.
You were playing poker?
Yes.
And there was some sort of a dispute over a winning hand. We're getting past that. Did you see an incident involving Mr. Rodriguez and a bicycle?
No.
Didn't see him pick up or toss a bicycle?
No.
Did you remove him from the house?
We walked out together.
You didn't pull him out of the house?
Pull, no. I was just, he wasn't done talking, and I think we were done talking, so I said it was time to go.
Now, when he left the house, can you describe what happened, sir?
I told him to leave, and I went to go close the door.
Look at me when you're talking.
And on the way out, I seen him kick Amber's car on the way out.
How many cars did you see him kick?
I only seen him kick Amber's car.
Did you say anything to him when you finally caught up to him?
No.
You didn't say, why did you kick Amber's car?
It's too late. It doesn't matter why. I couldn't stop it.
Oh, no. That's their witness. They say
That's their witness, sir,
they
but
say
your
I
friend
kicked-
for 17 years.
Oh, yes, ma'am. But it just seems fugazi to me because...
What?
It seems a little funny to me because they said I threw a bicycle. He didn't see it.
No,
They
he
say
didn't see
I kicked
that.
2 cars, and he only seen me kick 1. I don't know. The story seems wrong.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Just want to make sure that you think I'm fair. Not that it's really important to me what you think, but I want you to start doing a little thinking.
And later today,
Were you annoyed that she went back to her husband?
No, Your Honor.
Well, then if you weren't annoyed, why don't you do the right thing?
Yes, you say lack of communication.
Lack of character is more like it.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Amber Hunting says acquaintance Daniel Rodriguez vandalized 2 of her cars after an argument over a poker game. Amber has produced a surprise eyewitness.
Did you call the police immediately?
As soon as I saw the damage to the vehicles, I went inside.
Was that the same day, the 27th of August?
Yes.
Can I see the police report, please? How old are you, Miss Hunting?
21.
You live at home with your folks?
With my mother.
And this is your mom?
Yes.
Who, if I called her as a witness, would testify about a lot of bad language that she heard, and she said she was going to call the police, correct?
Correct.
You have photographs of the vehicles?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to see them, please. Well, the detective who responded saw the following, Mr. Rodriguez. He saw the damage to the cars. The issue is really, was this old damage, new damage? But let me tell you what the police officer wrote. Second vehicle, 1997 Ford Escort, belonged to Amber's mother, Doreen Hunting. I noticed a circular dent near the driver's side door and chipped paint around the dent. I located several pieces of the chipped paint on the ground directly below the dent on the door. So you know what that suggests to me, Mr. Rodriguez?
New damage.
Very smart. Now, who do you think had a motive to be angry that night?
I did.
And whose dear friend who invited them to this party says it was you who caused the damage?
Mine.
Mr. Rodriguez, if you were sitting in my place, would you think that I caused the damage?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Just want to make sure that you think I'm fair.
But
Not
I'd
that it's,
also would
not
think
that it's
that-
really important to me what you think, but I want you to start doing a little thinking. What are the estimates to fix these 2 dents?
$1,893.
Together?
Yes.
That's a bargain. So not only didn't you win, sir, at poker that night, but your temper is going to cost you $1,893. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I think it was drunkenness, and nobody was really listening to each other, and emotions run high when drinking is involved.
There were a bunch of people playing a game of poker who were too drunk to know how to really play.
It wasn't that big of a deal till my vehicles were damaged.
They were talking, they wanted to call the police, wanted to fight.
He was my friend's friend. I didn't think it was necessary. I had hoped that he would calm down.
Told him to call the police. I thought it was a good idea.
I just wanted to handle it right and take care of it, but he denied it.
You gotta do what you gotta do.
It's no big deal, you know. I've known him 15 years. It's just one night.
Thank you for showing up and taking care of everything, and I'm glad everything's over with.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Kerr versus Guthrie. Step forward, please.
26-year-old account manager Lisa Kerr is suing her ex-boyfriend, Private Eye Gary Guthrie, for a loan to buy a spy cell phone. Gary says the spy equipment was a gift.
Ms. Kerr, who is this?
This is my witness, my friend Lindsay.
Mr. Guthrie, who is this?
This is my brother Adam in witness.
This is the situation as I understand it. You and Mr. Guthrie dated briefly. Was it a time he was separated from your husband?
Yes, ma'am.
And for some strange reason, according to you, Mr. Guthrie, who needed some spy equipment, that's your business, you're in security, surveillance, and you agreed to put it on your credit card, this piece of equipment that he saw that he liked. And you did. According to you, he said he was going to pay for it. The piece of equipment came, you and Mr. Guthrie no longer an item. Mr. Guthrie says that the spy equipment doesn't work.
Correct.
So he's not paying for it, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
If it worked, were you going to pay for it?
Well,
Well is not an answer, Mr. Guthrie.
Well, I
if it
assumed it
worked,
was
listen to me very carefully, sir. If it worked, were you going to pay for it? Just a second. The questions get harder. What's your first name?
Gary.
Gary? Listen to me, Gary. Try not to play with me, sir, otherwise you're going to look like an idiot. If it worked, were you going to pay for it?
Yes, Your Honor.
That wasn't hard, was it, Gary?
No.
Did you actually think you were going to come here and make a fool out of me?
No.
So it didn't work. And you told the plaintiff it didn't work, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And so the company said, send it back to us, and while you're not going to get your money back, you can buy additional merchandise.
Or switch it out for another one that might work if it came.
Or switch it out.
Yes, ma'am.
And you understood that, right, Gary?
Yes, Your Honor.
See how mellow Gary is getting now? Gary gets it now. Because in Gary's answer, he thought he was being a wise guy, and he told me first it was a gift from her, that she bought him a gift. And then she changed her mind because she went back to her husband and they got this big bill, and that's why she's probably coming after him. That didn't ring true to me. So that's why I asked Gary if he was intending to pay her back for it if it worked. You understand, Gary? Then you bring along genius with you over here. Because the idea was, according to you, and you agree, that you were told to pack up the old equipment and send it back to the company. And you brought her over the box.
No, I didn't actually bring the box.
How did she get the box?
Through my brother.
He brought her the box.
Yes.
And she paid for sending it back.
That's correct.
Not you. She paid for sending it back. Now, genius, you can stand up.
Lisa Kerr says ex-boyfriend Gary Guthrie owes for a loan to buy a spy phone. Gary claims the phone was broken and he tried to return it.
You got a first name?
Adam.
You didn't pack up the spy equipment, did you, Adam?
I was told...
is not an answer.
I did pack up the equipment.
You did?
But I grabbed the wrong device, apparently.
What does that mean, genius?
When I gave it to Lisa and she'd shipped it off, they told her it was the wrong device. But I did not know because my brother was out of town. It was a phone call that told me to pack up the device.
What did you tell your brother to do?
I told him to grab my cell phone and pack it up to get to her.
Your cell phone? Well, that's not a spy piece of equipment that costs $3,400.
Well, if you've seen my other cell phones, you'd understand that I have a lot of cell phones, and all my cell phones are pretty high-tech.
I somehow think, Adam, that this was a little scammy-whammy that was going on here, kids. You sent back the wrong thing. Did you send back the wrong thing?
Yes, by accident.
Ultimately, you found the device, and it had not been sent back, right?
Correct.
When you found the device that had not been sent back, what was the first thing you did?
Well, I told her I obviously missed.
So the first thing you did was call her?
I tried to attempt to. I wasn't able to get in touch with her.
So you did call her?
Yes, once I found out it was the wrong device.
Well, then I want to know, what date did you find out it was the wrong device?
Mid-December, somewhere in the middle of December.
And when did you find out that they didn't receive the device?
It was right around December the 18th or 20th.
And when did Mr. Guthrie call you?
I actually never spoke with him about that until I had left to go on Christmas vacation, and I ended up breaking my leg. So I was out of commission for a few months, and I finally got a hold of him again in March.
So between December, when he found out that he did not give you the right piece of equipment, and March, are you telling me he never called you?
Not that I spoke with him, and not a message that I got from him, no.
So he never called?
No, ma'am.
As far as you know, he never called?
Right.
What did you do with the piece of equipment, Gary?
Well, come mid-April, we were fishing, and I was trying to get the device to work, which is the whole issue, how it didn't work. And out of frustration, it actually ended up in the lake.
So, Gary, who do you think ought to pay for this piece of equipment?
Well, my assumption, seeing that she didn't call me back for that period of time.
Didn't call you back? Did you send her a letter?
I didn't send a certified letter, Your Honor, no.
Did you send her back the piece of equipment and say, I'm sorry, my idiot brother made a mistake? The answer is no. The answer is you took the piece of equipment and you threw it in the lake. It's according to you. I don't know whether I believe you or not, but that's according to you. When did you throw it in the lake, Gary?
Let's see, April, mid-April.
So you could have done a lot of things. The first thing that you could have done was try her once on the phone. If I believed that, you couldn't get her in. So you pack the piece of equipment up and say, I'm sorry, this was a big mistake. That's in December. I'm going to bear the burden of sending it back to the company. I don't want you to send it back for another $70 because my brother doesn't know whether he's a foot or horseback, right? You chose not to do that, Gary. Were you annoyed that she went back to her husband? Huh?
No, Your Honor.
Well, then if you weren't annoyed that she went back to her husband, why don't you do the right thing?
Guess you'd say lack of communication.
Lack of character is more like it. How much was it?
The original purchase was $3,035. The other items that he chose to replace it came to an additional $223. They wouldn't send me a return authorization.
Just a second, you mean you bought other stuff, Gary? Gary! Did you buy other stuff? You bought another $223 worth of stuff?
I was trying to exchange, yes.
You were trying to exchange it for the wrong piece of equipment that your brother sent back.
Something that actually worked.
Just a second. You bought some other stuff despite the fact that your brother sent back a bad cell phone instead of this piece of spy equipment.
I wasn't aware that he'd done that, you know.
Well, did you send back the other stuff that you purchased for $223?
I never received it.
We never received it because we had to give them the list of the items that we wanted in replace of it. After we gave them that list, they gave us the return authorization. Once they received the phone, they were going to send the items. Well, they never received the phone.
So they never sent the items. Why, then you shouldn't be charged for them.
But I have the email where it says we have to charge your card prior to even giving you the return
Then you have
authorization.
to call them and say you never sent those items. Do you understand? I'm not charging you for those. That you take up with the company. They never sent you the merchandise. They can't charge you.
I have done that. It's a company in Thailand. It's really the only way I can communicate with them is through email.
Well, then I would suggest that you be smarter next time and not deal with a company in Thailand and not deal with Gary.
Understood.
And his brother. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,035. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
24-year-old copyright analyst Lydia Velasquez is suing her former friend, 22-year-old car salesman Shannon Sieber, for his share of a trip to Spain. Shannon claims Lydia offered to pay.
This is case number 101 on the calendar in the matter of Velasquez versus Sieber. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have seats, please.
Ms. Velasquez, Mr. Sieber was a friend of yours, and you claim that he owes you for some expenses from a trip to Spain that you took with him.
That's correct.
Or that he took with you. Mr. Sieber says there was never any agreement to pay you back any of the money you expended on his behalf, while acknowledging that you did spend money on him for plane tickets and some hotel expenses. Is that right, Mr. Sieber?
That's correct.
Okay. So let me turn to you first. I'd like you to tell me something about yourself.
Okay. I'm from Manassas, Virginia. I met Lydia in New York.
I didn't ask you where you met her. I asked you something about yourself.
Something about myself.
Yeah. First, why don't you tell me how old you are?
I'm 22 years old.
And what do you do for a living?
I sell cars.
And how long have you been selling cars?
For about 8 months now.
Is that what you want to be, a car salesman when you grow up?
No, but it pays well.
What do you want to be when you grow up?
Own my own business.
What kind of business?
Maybe a daycare.
A daycare?
Yeah.
You like children?
Love children.
Why do you think that you have what it takes to guide young children into maturity? Stand up straight. First, the first thing you have to know is that you don't have to lean on anything.
Yes.
A table, a woman, anything. So what I want you to tell me, Mr. Sieber, is since your life's ambition is to own a daycare.
Yeah.
Yes, try yes.
Yes.
That's the first thing you have to do with children, teach them how to speak. And since that is probably one of the most laudable professions to guide children, I want you to explain to me what personality traits you believe you have that would qualify you to guide the future of America. I want you to think about that, Mr. Fastmouth, before you answer my question. Because I want you to think of what it is. Because as you see from this little repartee that we're having between us, I can swallow you up alive. We understand each other?
Oh, we understand each other.
Very good. So I want you to think very carefully, Smarty Mouth, why you believe that you can, with your talents and what those talents and moral qualities that you have are, to guide the children who are the future of America.
Because I'm consistent and committed.
Committed to what?
Committed to be able to learn whatever I have to learn to be able to teach children.
Okay. Now let's talk about your moral qualifications. You sell cars?
Yes.
Did you ever exaggerate to somebody when you sold them a car?
No.
Never?
No.
So when you're negotiating with somebody, you're always right up front. When you say, listen, my manager won't let me take a penny less than for this car, and I'm going to give up most of my commission so that you can have this car, because I want you to have this car.
Of course.
That's totally honest.
Oh, yeah.
Never said anything that wasn't true.
No, ma'am.
Okay. I want you to do this for me, Mr. Sieber. When you open up your daycare center,
Yes, ma'am.
let me know where it is.
Okay.
When did you take this trip with Miss Velasquez?
We took it March 31st.
And how long did you go for?
6 days.
Who went, Mr. Sieber?
Myself and Lydia.
Just the two of you?
Yes, ma'am.
And I assume, Miss Velasquez, from reading your papers, that you had a little bit of a crush on him.
I did.
Now, what makes you think, Mr. Sieber, that even though Miss Velasquez had a crush on you, she was going to pay for your tickets?
Well, when I got the call early in February, and she asked me to take the trip with her, I told her that I would take the trip, and she said that she would cover the flight expense if I would go with her. When we got over there, the first night that we were there, advances were made, and I told her I wasn't looking for anything further. And after that happened, we got back to Northern Virginia. I started getting calls. She wanted money. So, because the advances were denied, she decided she wanted payment.
Why did you go with her, Mr. Sieber?
Because I liked her as a friend.
Did you tell her that?
Yes.
Oh, tell me what you said to her.
Exactly that.
Let me hear.
I like you as a friend.
When did you tell her that?
Many times in New York when I was with her, over the phone.
When she called and asked you to go to Europe with her, did she say why she wanted you to go to Europe with her?
No.
All right, now I'll hear you, Miss Velasquez.
Thank you.
When did you call him?
I didn't call him, actually. He had called me. We initially met, and we went on a really nice romantic first date. We kept in touch. My sister got sick. He was calling to ask me about her. And through the course of the conversation, towards the end of the conversation, I had told him about a trip that I was planning for myself. I thought planning a trip for myself and going to Spain was really what I wanted to do. Then Shannon had called me. He's very charming on the phone, and he expressed his interest in coming with me.
No, just not expressing it. What did he say, if you remember?
He said, would you mind if I came with you? And I said, yeah, no, that's great. I was excited about the fact that he wanted to go with me on a trip.
Now let's get to the tickets.
Sure. He had said if you can find a ticket for around $400, that he'd go ahead and, you know, pay me for that. So the next day, I did a vigorous search. I'm pretty good at the internet, and I found tickets. I had called him up, and I told him how much the ticket was going to be. It was around $444. And he had said, you know, that's fine. And I said, well, I already put the hotels, so you can just pay me half for the hotels. We can split that, and then just pay me back for the flight. And he said that he would pay me back the full amount. When we got to Spain, he paid me $300 in cash, and he...
Oh, Mr. Sieber, how come you gave her $300 in cash, sir?
Oh, that was for the hotel.
You gave her $300 and said...
And he said, on April 18th, I will send you the remaining balance. So I had thought that he was going to pay me once he got back home. We had a good time. I realized, though, when we got there, his attitude towards me changed. Before that, the phone conversations were great. He was saying, you know, oh, you're so cute, and I'm listening to your CD right now because I sing or whatnot, and you're making me smile and all this charming baloney. And I fell for it. I fell for it like... I would, but when we got there, though, his attitude changed towards me. He all of a sudden was cold, distant, and it seemed like I was irritating to him.
The bloom was off the rose.
It was.
Okay, fine.
It fell down and someone squished it.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I've been around long enough, Mr. Sieber, to know that what goes around comes around. And if you're not nice to people, eventually it's going to come back and bite you in the behind.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Lydia Velasquez says former friend Shannon Sieber owes for a trip to Spain. Shannon claims Lydia is upset that he only wants to be friends.
All right, $444 was the plane ticket, is that right?
Correct.
And then there was some expenses for the hotel.
Correct, because we were there for 5 days and 4 nights.
And you are asking for $350, which is less than the cost of the ticket, so your $300, sir, paid portion of the plane ticket. Did you know that?
No, I did not.
Look at that. You paid part of the plane ticket and you didn't even know it.
That's great.
Mr. Sieber, you look like a sweet young man. You're 22 years old, so I will attribute some of what you say to me today as being words from somebody who is not yet fully cooked. Just starting to shave and just starting to feel, you know, feel yourself. So I want you to understand something. You're supposed to have a reasonable moral compass. You're not supposed to toy with somebody else's affections. And I think that you're a smart aleck enough to know that by going to Spain with her, you were toying with her affections. You're not supposed to do that. It's unkind. And should you find yourself at the other end of this affection stick at some point in your life, I guarantee you won't like it. But I've been around long enough, Mr. Siebert, to know that what goes around comes around. And it may not come around today, it may not come around tomorrow, but if you're not nice to people, eventually it's going to come back and bite you in the behind. We understand each other?
Clearly.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $350. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It's just sad when friends have to start suing each other.
I'm just happy that I'm gonna actually get my money back.
There was never a relationship to begin with. It was all made up in our mind.
I might have been misled by him.
It was made very clear before we left it was what it was. There was going to be nothing more.
Not the person that I thought he was.
She's a nice lady.
He's just being rude.
We were only friends, and that's all it would ever be.
We're not friends anymore.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Kurlanchik versus McEnany Burt. Step forward.
24-year-old teacher Jennifer Kurlanchik is suing her friends, 23-year-old student Paul McEnany and 24-year-old inventory controller Mike Burt for damages to a Hummer limo she
ठीक है ये मो बहु मच था यो मेरा पे और एक बुढ़सा करा
हां ये गोदा में समय जी ता रेच थोड़ी पई कानूनी दे विच में ये मार के महीना रे ते पानी लूई से थी वेने पानी खड़ वेने ब्रेक लाग वेनी पानी हूं
आया
तू ही को का
ये सावा गट्टू क्यों चाहिए पोछा सावा गट्टू क्यों चाहिए
ये सावा गट्टू क्यों चाहिए ये बात
अब पिनाल ना आपदा
ना भाई इतना कानूनी आ पिनाल ते ये तय को कौन कहे नहीं था
हां
ए कोदा पंजा की बता मैं को ए दस तू ये सावा गट्टू वा क्या पिंदा भाई हां ना बच्चों की पिना की कठी करा नहीं
अरे कार ना
40-45 किलो करना बिदा पीछे गोदा गिंदी डब्बा रो लियो किਵੇਂ ना जी को बड़ा ओ दबे था कोई
अच्छा सही ए शाली शाली और वल्ले रे हां पुत्तू दा गद्दे शक्काली हो किती पे हां अच्छा गाली ना पेड़ ना वे मत कचरन ना पक्का कतरे नहीं फता
गाली ना करिया ना गरीब है
अच्छा रे मैं ए थे यार वीडियो बड़े ने हां खाली दो ट्राई बेड थार वीडियो को 69 लाइक का 69 लाइक
तू हुन पिन भला वाला मी भला कट्ठे बासू हिसाब किताब ही करे सू ना तेरी बहन रसा चावा
4 मिनट ते बनावणी हाले 1 मिनट
इदे नाल हाली इंदी मैं अपनी वाला बनावणी है ना इंदा सिस्टम ही बनावना है मैं जान किवें सही
4 मिनट की बनावणी है एक काम कर जरा
अच्छा बेया कितनी पढ़दा पे मैं तू
कितनी पढ़दा पे
ओए तू कितनी पढ़दा पे बग्गे सेरा ला
मैं 8वीं पढ़दा पे
आए ओए 8वीं पढ़दा पे अच्छा 81 विच 80 में कितनी बचदे
81 जो
हां
81 जो 80 नहीं
वेंदे जी नहीं वेंदे
81 जो 80 वजे एक बचदे 81 मां को यही 81 जो अच्छा 81 मांगे 80 जो 81 बन
जी वे
एक बच्चा
ए फेल है तू फेल ही वाह ते कोई इतना समय नहीं लगी मैं क्या के नहीं
तू सोचे था कुछ
ला जा सोची कितना पढ़दा की तापी वो स्कूल दस मैं आंदा मौका
क्या कर रहा तू रे आ गया
मैं उन लोगों का मैं ये भी मैं 81 विच 80 में कितनी बचदे वेन कितनी जो
81 जो 80 वजे एक ने बचदा हुआ का कसे नहीं बचती अरे वेगा रे
8वीं पढ़दा भई वाला 8वीं वाला बंदा रे
वो सब
आगे वेना की वेती तो मेरी तालीम करना भी तो मैं
यार मैट्रिक पास नहीं करा
मैं तो यार जान वे ना सर मैं कहीं ले फोन दिया
हां लगी मैं
मैं कपना आवे
हम की तबला काल को
सवेरे मेरा दिमाग काम ना करे ना
परेशान थी के मरी से
ये कोई था दुकान अपनी तरफ अल्लाह दा बंदा मैं ना मीटर काम करन छोड़ गए मैं की क्या ठीक है मेरे नाल रात में ताला मारी गया सवेरे आया ताला कह जा
ए हो
हां ये ताला कह जा
किधे गया
भला परेशान नहीं हो ताला की दे गए क्या चक्कर है बा ताला मेरा खड़ा है वो बाका मैं जहन ने सोचे ना रह गया वाला यहां नासिर की दुकान है टिक मिला था मैं ना जरा एक ही में हाल है आगे दी चाबी ले भाई मी ओ लई मी ताला खुल जाए मैं कह मर एक चाबी मैं तक नीती मेरी लाती तेरे को अच्छा ने मैंने वो मई में वाला चेक की थी
ना नहीं को क्यों रहती
वो मैं आके जी में बंदा घर खोलवा ने चाबी घर खोलवा ने बंदा जब फोन गिनने ताले चला ई ताले दी चाबी यही कह जा
ओ बे ताले चाबी रहती
उंदी ये कह जा ये ये बहुत चाबी ये नाल जे बंदे संदा वाला रखना
ओए को बकरियां छड़ी वदी लाडो
ये बोला बकरे ने वेची गार रहा थी बकरे
ओ वे आपे रत्ते रो माल वाला
बकरे ने गार की तीरा काम
के हाल के लकड़ दा काम कर दे कारीगर है
5 मिनट दिख रहा है क्या अच्छा